This is Infants on Thrones.
Throwback Friday.
This is it.
Hey everyone, Throwback Friday time. I can't believe that this episode is
8
years old.
It has now reached the age of accountability.
It's so old now that it no longer shows up on our RSS feed, so if you're trying to get episodes on iTunes or some other podcasting device, it's not going to be there anymore. But it's one of our top downloaded episodes from way back in the day, and we really got to get it back in the rotation because this Boyd K. Packer talk is just... wow. Just, I also think this is probably our first word-for-word, pick it apart and discuss it Smackdown before we even started calling these things a Smackdown. So this was released in July 2014, and I still remember sitting in a hotel room on a business trip working through the whole Boyd K. Packer Too Sexy parody at the beginning of this. Anyway, it's just... good times, Throwback Fridays. I hope you enjoy Little Factories.
Of all the blessings that have come, the best thing in my life is the companionship and comfort I get from very young men. Why would our Heavenly Father do that to anyone? Will you raise an alarm? I'm too sexy for wickedness. Too sexy for wickedness. There never was happiness. I'm too sexy for compassion. Too sexy for compassion. So-called tolerance must be wrong. We cannot be happy, nor saved, nor exalted without fighting the gay lesbian movement. Growing numbers of people now campaign to make spiritually dangerous lifestyles legal and socially acceptable. Now, in the spirit of love and sympathy, I speak to you who may be struggling against temptations for which there is no moral expression. And the simple truth is, the penis of any individual bumps up against the penis of another. Do not yield. Cultivate the spiritual strength to resist all of your life, if need be, in the spirit of love and sympathy. Keep your covenants, and you'll be saved. Break them, and you will not. I'm too sexy for perversion. Too sexy for that substance. It might be likened to having a little factory in your body, one designed to produce that substance that can generate life. As you move closer to manhood, this little factory will sometimes produce an oversupply of this substance. The Lord has provided a way for that to be released. You on the catwalk? Yeah, you on the catwalk? Yeah. I shake my little tush on the catwalk. There are some circumstances in which young men may be tempted to handle one another. Sometimes this begins in a moment of idle foolishness when boys are just playing around. When a young man is finding his way into manhood, such experiences can misdirect his normal desires and pervert him. No one is predestined to a life of perversion. I repeat very plainly, physical mischief with another man is forbidden. I'm too sexy for the devil. Too sexy for sympathy, compassion. Physical mischief, penis. I'm too sexy for men. Too sexy for masculine, manly men. I'm too sexy for infants on thrones.
This is Infants on Thrones. Philosophies of men mingled with
Little factory substance.
We are the core.
Yeah, we're not mingled with little factory substance. I don't know, maybe we are. Welcome back to Infants on Thrones. I'm Glenn Ostland, and today you are in for a real treat. In 1976, our favorite apostle, Boyd K. Packer, gave a talk that has been legendarily known as the Little Factory Talk. I mean, I'd heard of it before. I knew kind of what it was about, but I'd never actually listened to the thing or really read it until about a week ago. So today we're going to walk you through it. It's myself and Tom, Matt, and Jake, and we're just going to jump right into the thing. So hang on, it's going to be a fun one. I think there's interesting things in here to talk about above and beyond like the crazy stuff.
Oh, absolutely, I agree.
So
no, I was surprised at how. Yeah, there's. I agree with you. There's a lot there.
Yeah.
Did you listen to it, Matt, or did you just read it?
No, I listened to it. I listened to it twice actually today.
Yeah.
Twice. Wow, you've got a strong stomach.
Was it familiar to you, Matt? Because we talked about this earlier, but was this something that you had in your youth, or you just had heard of it vaguely?
I had heard of it. I had a friend who was an older friend, and he first introduced me to it. Just told me about it because we were talking. I think when I first came across Pullman. I said, well, yeah, this is the first time they've ever edited it. And he said, well, actually, there's a talk that they never published in the Ensign, but that they published just as a pamphlet later. And he started telling me how when he heard it, it was just everyone was just kind of looking around like, this is really weird. And he told me about the little factory thing and kind of that. And so I was familiar with it just from that. And then that caused me to kind of go try to find the pamphlet and just for more shits and giggles than anything else. So I was familiar with the little factory reference, but that was pretty much it.
Yeah. And what I can't figure out is the pamphlet thing. Is that a demotion? Or is that a spotlight? Because
I think it's a spotlight personally.
Yeah,
That's what
I mean, because you would think it wasn't published in Ensign with all of the other talks, and it's not available on LDS.org, probably because they don't want people to do to it what we're going to do to it. But then they shine the spotlight on it with this pamphlet that was released. I mean, the one that I have, it's copyright 1976, but I think that's just the talk. And the pamphlet came out maybe 80, 81. And then there's another one that you can find on LDS.org as under the booklets and pamphlets section. It's not under the general conference talks, but it's given 1994. So maybe it was reissued in 94.
Well, it's interesting because it's this weird. They're distancing from it. They recognized that they had something that was fairly explosive, right? That they couldn't put in the Ensign for public consumption because it was pretty graphic.
Yeah.
Certainly under Mormon standards, but so they didn't put it in there. But at the same time, they thought, "Wow, this is really important stuff to give to the young men." So and so that was their, I guess their kind of
rationale.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah. Their compromise.
It makes sense putting it that way, but it's still. And I also heard echoes of the 2010. Inflammatory. Why would our loving Heavenly Father do such a thing? That's right in here. It's where he says that no one is
has
predestined
a for
Well, not predilection, but predestined.
Predestined.
Yeah. Predilection means a little bit more relish and zeal than just predestined. But anyway, so let's get right to it. They're president and priesthood session only, brother.
We're not. If you read it like that, we don't have to go into any of this.
I approach a subject that cannot appropriately be. I'll lose my voice after the first paragraph if I do that. It's like
it sounds like Columbo, like a weird version of Columbo.
It sounds like Froggy. Do you remember Froggy from the Little Rascals?
Why don't you want to buy some of our lemonade?
I don't have no money, and besides, it's too hot in here.
It is, yeah.
Okay, so he says, they're present in priesthood session only, brethren. I approach a subject that could not appropriately be discussed if others were present. Why? Why couldn't it be appropriately discussed if others were present?
Well, I think he's assuming like women.
Maybe he's a prophet and he's looking forward to the day when Kate Kelly's going to lead the ordained women movement, and he's saying, ladies, this would not be appropriate for you. Do you think that's
This is why we need to exclude women
it
from
is.
priesthood.
We're just protecting them from us.
Yeah, because they don't want to know what goes on, beneath the belly buttons for us guys.
Their factories are completely different than ours.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah, their factories are more like fun houses.
It's like a ball pit.
Your body is a wonder wall. Or
You're mixing songs there, buddy.
That was horrible.
And few times have I desired so earnestly to be sustained by the Spirit of the Lord as I discuss a subject that fathers should discuss with their sons. Because some young men do not have fathers, and because some fathers and some bishops do not know how to proceed, I approach a very personal subject, one that is important to every young man.
Okay, that part.
Yeah.
What an a-hole. Only I can do this. So many fathers and even bishops are just absolutely fall short and cannot follow their stewardship to talk to boys how they're supposed to. So it's left to me, the almighty Oz.
Yeah.
Don't you worry about it, you guys that are dropping the ball. I'll pick up the ball. I got this.
Yeah, I'm going to show you how to do it. Well, the thing that jumped out to me there was that he calls it a personal subject. And maybe he just means that it's very sensitive and personal to people, but maybe I get the sense as I read this later that this is actually quite personal to him. Because he's
Wait, what are you trying to imply there, Glenn?
Well, we'll get to it.
Look,
Okay.
yeah.
But he seems to understand the mentality that he's speaking out against a little too intimately for just chance. That's my take on it. Anyway.
Young man, you have been given a mortal body with which to experience earth life. Through it, you will be tested. Your body is the instrument of your mind and the foundation of your character.
I think that's an important thing to talk about right there. That your body is the instrument of your mind. We've talked about this whole dualism, materialism thing. Spelled out pretty clear there. That you have a mind that is separate from your body, and your body is the instrument of your mind. So your mind is like the little guy in the brain that's controlling everything, and I want to reach out and grab the salt, and your arm's reaching out to grab the salt. Is that how you guys read that? That your body is the instrument of your mind?
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Why do you have a problem with that?
I don't have a problem. I just think it's.
Oh.
I think to understand where he's coming from, the things that he's going to say later, you got to ground it in this worldview, a very, very dualist worldview, and that your body, your mind, isn't your body.
Well, but if you think of it as if the spirit that is inside your body,
right,
that's the little machine that's controlling this external mortal shell.
Yeah.
It's just reacting to what the soul or spirit is telling it to do. So, yeah.
Well, and it just reflects such myopia and just the complexity of mental disorders, personality disorders, behavioral disorders.
Don't bring in the exceptions, Matt. Those don't exist.
And that's exactly the point. In Mormonism, it requires the idea of the best possible scenario in order to work. But if you have depression, you have anxiety, you have, or hell, in this case, if your body's an extension of your mind, what if you're physically handicapped? What's that to say to other people who are hearing this and really taking that? What does that mean for them? It's just such myopic viewpoint of the world, and not realizing that he's talking to a larger audience than just the 12 kids that he's really thinking of that are doing stuff.
I don't know, because he says you'll be tested through your body, and that could include infirmities, disabilities, depression, that kind of mental trauma. That could be your test.
He might think that you can overcome those issues, Matt, without medication or professional services. So,
and I think that's why Glenn framing it in that way is important. Framing it in.
Did you say I was flaming it?
he was flaming it. He was framing it importantly in explicitly stating that it's part of a dualistic mind view. Because if you view your body as a piece of hardware for which, if it's the number 2 pencil for which to take this test of life, then asking you to give up some of the desires of the flesh if you have same-sex attraction or something like that isn't as big of a deal, because it's just like a piece of hardware and you'll get a new one later.
Yeah, and it also paves the way for things that he says later. What was that quote? That you're not predestined for perversion. A perversion is a perversion of the mind, right? But the mind is pure. And our quest here in mortality is to keep our spirit and our mind as pure as possible, while all of this physical world is trying to degrade it. The natural man is an enemy to God and all that.
Well, and what are the 2 most important things that you have to protect against related to your body? Sex stuff and word of wisdom. Those are the 2 kind of desires of the flesh.
Yeah.
And so it's definitely related to that as well, I think.
Well, so he also says that, your body is the instrument of your mind and the foundation of your character. Now, what does that mean?
That I don't know.
That your body is the foundation of your character?
Ooh, boy. Because what if you do have disabilities in that case?
But is that going to like the what will eventually become the proclamation of the family that, gender is eternal, and so your body, because you're a boy and you've got a penis, that is the foundation of your character?
That actually might be. That makes sense to me. That he might be emphasizing gender roles here. I don't know.
See, I took it as your character is related to whether or not you can actually overcome these things with your body. That good people, virtuous people, follow this way, and you have good character if you have good character if you do these things related to your body. Which, again, a very myopic view of what it means to have character. So if you lie, you do other things. That's much lesser than if you act out with your body.
Yeah.
That's how I read that.
Yeah. Okay.
It has within it powers which, if properly used, will contribute greatly to your exaltation. If you use this gift worthily, it will serve you throughout all eternity. Never be ashamed of your body.
Never be ashamed of your body. I like the way that he says body. It's like Mr. Rogers. Right? Isn't that kind of weird, the way that he says body? Did you guys think that?
Like in the talk, you mean?
Yeah, the way that he pronounces body.
Yeah, I didn't catch it either. Sorry, go ahead.
It's like he's talking to little kids at that point. Body. Okay.
Just like they use a potty.
Yeah,
a potty.
Potty.
The potty. Your body.
Okay. All right.
No two are just alike. Some young men worry because they think their body is not well proportioned.
Oh, that's classic.
This is actually my favorite.
I like this part.
Paragraph. Yeah, this is.
Yeah, but I thought when he starts doing that, I really, and I know there's no way he could have been going there, but I really thought he was dealing with like size,
Really? Why would that even cross your mind, Matt? I didn't think of that at all.
Cross Matt's mind? Right.
Because I knew the little factory, and it was really more, I was predisposed towards, okay, this is about masturbation. So once he starts talking about proportion, right. I'm just thinking, I just jump right there. Yeah. So anyway.
Also, Matt drives a big old truck, so you know what that means.
Do you? Do you drive a big truck?
That's not true. I have absolutely zero care about cars.
Yeah, I don't either.
If that says anything, Jake, what?
Yeah.
He also has big feet. He catches drift.
Yeah. I don't care about cars either, as long as I can put those like big lug nut ball things on the back of them. What are the
right on the back of my Prius?
Right on the back of my Prius. Yeah,
right. Put car testicles on the back of my
nuts.
Prius.
Yeah.
Car nuts.
Dude, I'll drive around in a little pink VW Bug. I don't care.
Wow, you are cool.
That's right, because I've got a big wang.
All right.
well proportioned. We'll call it that.
Well proportioned.
They think they are too short or too tall or too stout or too thin or too something else.
Like bent.
Or uncircumcised.
Yeah, wormy.
Too much skin, anteater.
You hooded bandits out there.
Physical proportions need have little to do with success, particularly spiritual success. Be grateful to your body.
Okay, so like
no, that
like
is a good message.
It's an absolutely good message because he's bringing the self-esteem up for all those kids that are having, self-esteem issues. Like, oh look, I'm overweight or I'm too short. I don't know what the problem is. Nobody likes me. I'm going to go eat worms.
In the actual talk, he was like pointing at the fat kid on the front row. Like, this kid right here has nothing to be ashamed about. You can sit down now.
You too can be successful. I mean,
he elder Bednar'd him. He was like, get up. And give him a big old hug from behind.
A very awkward hug, yeah.
Here's a Hostess cherry pie. Are you going to take it? Okay. All right.
Look at me. All I was a seminary teacher, and look at me now.
It is kind of like that. He's kind of like patting himself on the back, right?
Right. This isn't, but yeah, it's another example of self-aggrandization by kind of talking like you're addressing humble things.
Yeah. Okay, but I agree. I mean, I think to be fair, this is a good message to give to youth and to men, to women alike. That's a good message.
So this pamphlet isn't full of just straight shit. There are some good things.
It's coming.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Develop your body to full and useful capacity. Develop manly stamina and control. Why manly?
Wait, was that really in there?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, and I kind of figured this out after we recorded this. We were reading from the pamphlet as we were having this conversation, and I'm just overdubbing the actual conference talk over the top of it. But there are some things that are in the pamphlet that weren't in the actual conference talk. So when you hear me reading what Packer's saying, that's because it's coming from the pamphlet, and it wasn't actually in the conference talk. So I don't know why he would emphasize in the pamphlet this manly issue when he didn't say it otherwise. But there are a few things that were added for the 1981 pamphlet that weren't in the original 1976 talk. So kind of interesting. Anyway, back to the conversation.
Because he doesn't want you to run. He doesn't want you running with your arms flailing around.
Yes. No, and this comes up later, and you'll get there. But notice that he says this at this point, and then highlights it later. This idea of masculinity being of such importance.
Yeah.
This is the first glimmer of homophobia coming out right here.
Yeah, manly. I
gotta say that I'm looking at the wrong place, but I don't see manly. Is this from the pamphlet?
I'm looking on the. Are you looking on LDS.org?
No.
Okay, I'm looking on the PDF.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm the
1976 PDF. But that would be interesting if, like, you guys were reading the LDS.org as we went along and pointed out any differences.
No, mine's the shitty LDS-Mormon, and it's like old 1995 internet. So I mean, it's like it's all weird. It's all aerial and.
Well, now I want to know if the original audio says develop manly.
No,
stamina.
it does. It does.
It does. Okay.
No, it doesn't.
There, my wife walked by bottomless, and I told her the camera was on, and she freaked out.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, jeez.
That's
funny. That's so funny. Sorry.
All right.
I was going to say something about the manly stamina control. I don't remember now.
A young man should learn to rule his body like his temper. He should keep it always under complete control.
What an interesting phrase. Rule your body like your temperature, not control. Well, he does say control later, but that's just a weird turn of phrase, to rule it.
Yeah. Well, but it's your instrument. You're the mind. You're the captain. You got to keep your body in control.
Well, and he uses anger and temper instead of any other analogy, which I thought was interesting. I mean, to me, that sounds like a glimpse into his soul. There, he might have anger issues.
Yeah,
right. Because there are other emotions that he could have made the analogy with.
Yeah, like hunger.
Rather than anger, or like hunger, or excessive happiness, or whatever.
No, that's really interesting, because at what point, this idea that you can use anger righteously or correctly, what an interesting juxtaposition. Whereas your body, there's so much that you do positive with your body, but there's really nothing you do real positive with anger.
Well, later on he does. With the missionary
you're
story.
You're right.
Yeah. So
don't, spoiler alert.
Yeah, spoiler alert. Okay.
No, but it is this. What insight into this guy?
Yeah,
into this guy's personality.
Right. It's a microscope into him, and that he says
sometimes is not easy to do.
Really? I don't really have a problem with it.
Well, because we all have the same problems that he has, apparently.
Exactly.
Within your body, you have the power of creation. You will one day find a mate.
Aye. Arr. Matey.
Shiver me timbers, Packer.
A reference to the one-eyed pirate.
Yeah. And desire greatly to express fully your love with her. The righteous expression of this physical love in marriage is approved of the Lord.
Isn't that good news? Weren't you glad when you heard that, to know that the righteous expression is approved of the Lord? Like he's given his stamp of approval. It's all right.
Yeah, he's got the.
No, I like that he says good. you can express fully of your love, which includes anal.
No, that's not the righteous expression.
But it's fully. How am I going to go around the world? Sorry, Tom.
Here's how you know. The next thing that he says.
She may then conceive and give birth to a boy or a girl, a baby, of whom you will be the father. This is a very sacred power. The Lord has commanded that you use it only with one to whom you are legally and lawfully wedded. And he has decreed serious penalties indeed for the misuse of it.
Where? Like, this is
what
such...
do you mean, where?
Yeah, where has he commanded... I mean, first of all, where has he commanded you to use only with one whom you're legally and lawfully wedded? Where is that?
This is the adultery. It's in the Ten Commandments, Glenn. This is adultery he's talking about. It's right under murder.
Adultery.
What do you mean, where?
Yeah, the Book of Mormon, man. This is the worst thing except for not being Mormon and murder.
Okay, so what are the serious...
It's not the nine commandments, Glenn.
You got me. I got it. Okay, you got me.
Okay.
He's just listening out.
I'm just listening.
All right.
So what are these serious penalties that have been decreed? Like, really, what's going to happen? AIDS?
What about the temple?
You can say it. Go ahead.
I don't remember what it says. It's something you'll be given over to buffetings of Satan in the flesh or something?
But didn't you already suffer the buffetings of Satan in the flesh, and that's why you did it? Or buffetings is what? Oh, buffetings is anal.
No, yeah.
No, that's butting.
Oh, okay.
What about? Okay, so the sin next to murder. Those are the penalties. If there are penalties,
but that's just that's just like Bob's Mormon cred scale of wickedness, like a hierarchy of sins. It doesn't say what's going to happen to you. Like he says, there's decreed serious penalties. Like you've got to sit in the penalty box.
Well, I think it's one of those things where if you knew how serious of a penalty it would be, you'd be scared straight forever.
If that was the case,
exactly.
If that was the case, he'd say it.
If you knew it would be too easy.
Yeah, it's what a parent does. You don't want to know what's going to happen if you do that again because I haven't figured it out either.
And believe you me, it scares me just thinking
it's going to be bad. It's going to be bad.
This power begins early in life with someone you are hardly in your teens. This has a purpose. For with this power come the attributes of manhood.
Even if you're circumcised.
No, it doesn't say that.
No, I was saying manhood. Oh. Never mind. Okay.
I get it now. I get it right over my head.
That's what your hood does.
Keep the euphemisms.
It's a foreskin joke.
You notice the changes in your stature and your voice. A beard and other masculine characteristics become part of your nature.
Yeah, a beard. That's another gay reference.
Oh, okay, you're right. A bear, a cougar, and other masculine characteristics become part of your nature. So I got to tell you guys, when I was like 12 years old and I got pit hair, you couldn't keep a shirt on me at Scout outings. Like I was walking around with my hands up over my head, just letting my armpit hair out for the whole world to see.
I don't know if you guys know this, but I'm kind of a man now.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, hey, where's your armpit hair? Because you didn't want to be the last scout in the shower that didn't have pubes.
There was a kid in our scout troop, and he made it to almost 16 without a single pube, and he was humiliated.
Yeah, right.
About that. Yeah.
All right. True story.
All right.
And you know it's a true story because I just said.
Okay.
True story.
Luckily, the clue's in the title.
Right. Mission companion. He's 21, getting ready to go home, or 20, almost 21, getting ready to go home, and we're in there, and he calls me in, and he says, I'm noticing. He's like, do you mind looking down there? Is this normal? And this poor kid, he is the prototypical nerd. Like if you wrote a character, any cartoon character, this is who you would draw. Red hair, skinny, big nose, his curly hair, his glasses, pants up to his, up to almost his nipples, just the prototypical nerd. And we're like, I'm like, yeah, okay, let me see. And he shows me, I'm like, no, dude, you got pubes. And he was so happy.
Wait, so you looked
so happy.
So he just pulled down his pants, and you looked. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Not that there's anything wrong with that,
right? No,
I'm curious, like the level of trust there. That just indicates a huge level of trust that he was like, "Hey, look at my genitals and tell me if this is normal." Is that kind of what happened?
Yeah, it really was. And here's a funny thing: is I was perceived and still have this perception of being an a-hole jock, this and that. But he and I really connected. He was a good guy. I was pretty, I never picked on him. Never, I just accepted him for how he was. He was kind of a nerdy, quiet kid, but and so he really did trust me quite a bit because of that and the way I treated him with respect and with kindness, just because of that. So yeah, I think he respected me, or at least trusted me, and yeah, it was. Yeah,
hey, way to go, man!
Touching.
That's
yeah,
great.
But it was
way to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, except here's the thing, man. This dude was 21 and he's just now getting pubes.
Yeah.
Well, let's be honest. If any of us had Matt as the missionary companion, we'd all drop trowel for him.
Yeah. Just one look at that pink bicycle flag in the basket that he was riding around with, going, "Look how manly I am." I'm like, yeah. Yep.
Well, so you're saying my grooming's been working on you, Tom. Just wait till I get up to Utah.
I can't wait. I'm marking the days off, man.
All right.
Anyway.
Like this is good fun mischief among boys, but that's going to become bad in a few minutes here.
Oh yeah.
Your feelings also change. The physical power will influence you emotionally and spiritually as well. It begins to shape you to fit and to look and to feel and to be what you need to be as a father.
And like right now, he's using father as a euphemism for a sexually active male, right? That's what he means by father.
Yeah, necessarily.
Well,
you have kids, therefore you've done it.
No, but he's saying it begins to shape and fit you to look and feel, to do what you need to be a father.
Well, the entire talk takes as a given that the purpose of sex is procreation. There's no point at which, from what I remember, there's no point at which he says, oh, sex also has this purpose in expressing intimacy between couples. Every time he mentioned the actual acts of sex, it's always followed by a reference to procreation, fatherhood, motherhood, that type of thing, families.
That's probably been his experience with it.
Oh, absolutely. But this is back in the day. So this is 76, where the idea of things like oral sex and condoms are at least frowned upon. Are, you have references to those from him and from McConkie. So this is definitely in that very Catholic world of, you should only be having sex for procreative purposes.
Okay, I remember what I was going to say earlier when we were talking about the manly reference. Jake, you probably heard me tell the story. I don't know if the other guys have. There was a guy in our ward that spoke with a very distinct lisp. If you talk with this person, you just think, all right, I've seen that lisp somewhere before.
Right.
And he was giving...
Are you saying he's fabulous?
He seems fabulous in certain ways.
Right.
But
So are you saying effeminate? Is that what you're saying?
I just said a lisp. You said effeminate. So,
so I like how you turned it around on me.
I'm just
see what he
I'm
did
just stating the obvious. So
jeez,
he's ordaining his son to the priesthood, and we're doing it in priesthood session, general priesthood session before we break into quorums. And in the blessing, he says, "I bless you that you will not be a wussy, because the Lord does not like wussies."
Oh.
I do remember that. I remember this.
Well, you weren't there.
He actually said that
Wait.
in there?
You remember hearing me tell you the story because it was before you were around.
Are you sure?
Uh-huh. Unless he did it with another one.
All right. Well, maybe because he has a very distinct voice. Maybe I just imputed the fact that he had said that to my own memory.
No,
but anyway, it was this guy.
It was before I left for Japan.
Oh, okay.
But
all right.
So we were talking earlier about how important it is to be manly and masculine. I think that's still around, but with this guy in particular and with others, you kind of wonder, did they possibly lean that direction? But because of what the church says, they controlled it and they mastered it and they got married and they're approaching sex exactly the way that Packer is talking about doing it here. It's for procreation. It's part of God's plan. It's part of being sacred. It's part of your mind mastering your body. And, this is the perspective that Packer's coming from, and he's speaking to it with such authority that it just makes me wonder.
Yeah, but this is something that continues on in the 2000s. I knew a kid in our ward who's crazy. I mean, just... at 10 years old, you're like, that kid's gay. And it turns out he is, and he's embraced it, and he's a nice kid. But the bishop's advice was kind of to the other young men in the ward were, we need to help butch him up. You're like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah. See, this makes me sad because it's essentially saying to those that are in the closet, stay there. Stay in the closet.
What he's saying to them, what Packer's message is. Yeah.
It just makes me
fake it better.
sad.
But
fake it better.
But if
it makes me sad.
And I don't want anybody to misunderstand why I'm saying this. I'm not trying to say, ha ha, Packer, you're gay too, you're a closet gay, ha ha ha. What I'm trying to say is if he was, it makes much more sense why this is such a pressing issue for him. Why, if this is something that he's actually experienced in his life and feels like he's been able to master, he wants to share it with other people because he feels like this is what you've got to do to be righteous. I feel a little bit more sympathy for him and for the positions that he's coming from. I feel bad for him, like you were saying, Tom, but I understand it a little bit better. But
it sounds like you're indirectly or directly implying that he might be in the closet. And I've heard these rumors and rumblings before. I don't necessarily subscribe to that. I think I've heard another rumor that he might be asexual. I kind of lean towards that a little bit more than he might be in the closet.
I don't know,
but I don't. I'm not going to say in the closet so much, but just if he had those inclinations, if he had same-sex attraction, and recognized that it was wrong. If he had his own Steve Blaine when he was younger.
He and I were close as two friends could be. One thing led to another, and soon I would discover I was having really strange feelings for Steve.
And we'll get to this later because to me it becomes a little
takes
bit
a right turn here in a little bit.
It becomes a little bit more obvious. But I'm just saying I think when he's talking about masculine characteristics becoming part of your nature and all these things, I think it's an important issue to him. It's obvious it's an important issue to him. I'm saying why.
It is. But let me just say this: there are a lot of very heterosexual straight males that are very homophobic that would have said the same thing. So, yeah, all right.
Well, okay. Well, I do agree that out of in a conversation about homosexuals, they would probably say the same thing. Yes, this talk was hammered out from the ground up by him. He chose the topic. He chose all of the things he needed to hit on. I'm sure that a lot of heterosexual straight men that will react that way when confronted with the idea of homosexuality or with gay related topics, but I know very few that come out of nowhere and say, you know what is terrible about gay people is it just doesn't happen that much. It's not even on their mind. It's not. I don't know. It's not really in their. It's not in their purview of what comes to mind when they think, oh, what's really important to talk about right now.
But he's talking about puberty and these creative powers, and right here he does this weird little kind of of. Oh, by the way, you got to be kind of manly and kind of butch it up and be masculine. There is only one way, and if you cook and if you like music and if you're sensitive, that's not, you need to have a temper and a temper that you can control. I mean, it's really this drumbeat of and that's a weird place to be given what he's laid the foundation for his talk of creative powers, puberty, controlling your body.
I'll concede all those points. I just want to state that I know, or I've known, very straight homophobic men that have this tough guy persona that would have said the same sort of thing. So it doesn't directly imply that he might be.
Not yet.
Yeah, and the reason I even went here, Tom, is because the way that he describes a relationship with a woman is very textbook. It doesn't seem like it's real. It's like that's what you're supposed to say, and it's to Jake's
she's your mate. What does he refer to as your mate?
Your mate. He does go on to say this, that you become very interested in young women. You want to be with them. This is as it should be. But even then, this is as it should be. It seems like he's convincing himself. It just
maybe, but I think
it's not a given.
I think you might be reading into it. That's all I'm saying.
Not yet. It gets better.
Let's get to where we were, because right now we're speculating about stuff that's going to happen. Let's just talk about it, and then we'll get there.
By the way, great scene. And have you seen the movie In and Out with? Is it In and Out with Kevin Kline, where he's a gay? They think he's a gay teacher, and it turns out he is gay, and he has he buys this album of how to butch it up. Great scene. I mean, you guys should at least YouTube that. It's classic, where they're the self-help tapes trying to help him butch it up the way he talks and walks and the things he should be interested in.
I just watched The Birdcage with my kids, and there's that scene where Robin Williams is trying to teach Nathan Lane how to be butch, and it's just a disaster. That's
great
funny.
Movie.
But just to your point, Tom, I want to acknowledge I am absolutely reading into this.
All right.
Okay, so
let's go on.
What you're saying is you have not had a homosexual encounter with Boyd K. Packard personally.
No, nor do I know anyone who has. No, I'm just doing a textual analysis here. That's all, and I could be way completely off. And the only reason I'm doing it is because it makes me feel a little bit more sympathy for him and for his messages. So that's all.
Fair enough.
It affects your life several years before you should express it fully. You must always guard this power with manly wisdom.
With what kind of wisdom?
Man. You must wait until your marriage to use it. During that waiting, what do you do with these desires? My boy, you are to control them. You are forbidden to use them now in order that you may use them with worthiness and virtue and with the fullness of joy at the proper time in your life.
A little condescending there. My boy.
My boy, yeah.
Young man only.
And so strong. You're forbidden. Like, that's a strong word.
Well, it's a sin. Yeah. It's why do you take such offense to that? I mean, because I've always lumped this in the same category with adultery, and I'm like, yeah, this is like, if I really abuse this power, I might as well murder someone because it's the next level up.
I get that. I just, like, where I am now, I just feel like it's so... It's so unnatural. It's so which he would say yes, because the natural man's the enemy of God, right? But it's just so unhealthy to grow up thinking that way. And like the whole thing about waiting until your wedding night to use it. Like, I totally bought into that. And so, like, I was expecting fireworks on my wedding night that, finally, I've not had sex because I wasn't supposed to, and now I am when I am supposed to. And so because of that, the Lord's going to bless me. And it was all right. It wasn't what I was expecting. It wasn't what I had seen in the movies. It wasn't anything I had any clue what to do or how to do it well. It just...
Right. Well, that sounds like a very common experience. I mean, you walk into the hotel room with this itchy trigger finger and a completely loaded gun, and you expect fireworks, and then it's kind of, you guys are bumping around each other and like, oh, what's going on? Would this go here? Okay. Oh, that was weird. It's not till a week or a month later where you're like, now it's getting good.
Right. Yeah. You have but it goes exactly the way you would expect something really complicated that you've only done for one. You're doing for the first time to go.
Exactly.
It's.
But doesn't this perpetuate it builds it up more than it needs to be?
Definitely it builds up the idealization of marital sex to just an unhealthy level where. I don't think that this isn't about hedging your expectations at all.
Right.
This is all about just postpone all of your desires, all that angst, all that desire. Just load it onto this one experience when you're at your most vulnerable and least experienced.
Yeah. Well, and I will concede the point too when he says you are forbidden to use them now or whatever. He doesn't say you shouldn't use them. He says you are forbidden. So that is superlative. Hey, Bob.
Well, it's just really strong, and so I can't speak to the people who goofed up and did have sex before marriage and then had to deal with all the guilt that this kind of a mindset would have. But I imagine that would be just way more than you actually need to feel.
It's a lot of fucking guilt, dude.
To me, if you're going to teach kids about sex, and I've got teenage daughters, and my son is 10. Like, what I want to teach them is how to be smart and how to be responsible and how to be safe. Not just like God, Master in the sky, has forbidden you to ever do this, and there's dire penalties that have been assigned if you ever do. I just keep me away from that kind of messaging. It's just I hate it.
That's what's so ridiculous about having a morality that's based on the idea of sin, where there's some unquantifiable, unseen, metaphysical impact for the actions that you're doing outside of. Let's look at the impact. Something that's quantifiable, something that's measurable in this life. You're attributing all of that angst and all of that guilt to some metaphysical, unquantifiable thing. So there's no way to really reconcile with it because it doesn't exist. It can't be really grasped because it exists in this weird, unseen realm.
Yeah.
I think it's really damaging.
I'm purely speculating here, but I think one of the reasons why the STDs are so high in the state of Utah is because if they're going to commit sex, they're probably dealing with the guilt is probably on the forefront of their minds. They're not really worrying about pregnancy or STDs. They're like, we're committing this act, and this is a horrific act. We're both now major sinners. STDs and pregnancies, one of the least things we need to worry about at this point.
Yeah, and that's
they don't plan for it. It happens. So when it does happen, they're not prepared.
But it's a consequence of sin. Right.
Well, there's a reason that statistically, you are more likely areas that predominantly teach abstinence-only sex education have higher incidence of teen pregnancy. Right. And that is because this unplanned, this ultra stigmatized metaphysical impact of what you're doing just destroys your ability to do it evaluate it and approach it in any sort of way that's responsible or mature or rational at all.
Yeah. It's scary. Yeah, I'm with you, Glenn. This mentality is scary.
So now you understand why I'm responding a little strongly to it.
I've understood the whole way.
Okay.
But yeah.
All right.
But that's not to say that there aren't real reasons to talk to kids about why they shouldn't have sex and why that they're too young emotionally.
Absolutely.
And other things. And that's that's where people lose sight. It's like, oh, so you don't believe in that as sin, so why even, how do you teach your kids to, chastity lessons? Well, I teach my kids chastity lessons because there are real consequences to it, both physically, emotionally, and we go through it and we have that conversation.
Now I want to know what these chastity lessons are. Now I want to know what these chastity lessons are. What chastity lessons? You're teaching them how to be chaste?
To my kids?
Not by example.
No, definitely not.
How are you teaching them how to be? Well, like, what are the chastity lessons?
Oh, we talk about how.
Do you use dolls?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So we talk about how the masturbation and that stuff is normal. It's expected. You shouldn't, but it shouldn't take up too much of your time. Do it in a private place. Do it here. And actually, this is disclosing too much, but like for my son, explain how you shouldn't be looking to just get it over with quickly. You should take your time. You should explore your body. You should understand, your body. We talk about that with our daughter. And then you should not be having sex right now because of, all the consequences emotionally, otherwise. But if you choose to, don't compound a bad decisions with a worse one by not using condoms in these things.
Yeah, see, I completely agree with that. I wouldn't say using abstinent only, but if you encourage abstinence, then I think that's a good thing. But as long as you have a preparation for a plan B or C, like, always have birth control ready, or a condom with you, blah, blah, blah.
But
that's the smartest way to do it.
But we've also encouraged, we started talking about how as they get older and start dating, as they become adults, that they should consider living with the person before getting married and having a deeper relationship. So we're encouraging that because we think that actually is healthier than just do nothing, not really know this person for a period of time, and then jump into marriage and have kids.
Right.
Well, and another large part of this is make sure as and I obviously am speaking completely out of my ass because I don't actually have kids, but I think that it's important to center whatever encouragement around abstinence and sexual behavior as a young, just emerging pubescent person. Center that decision and the consequences of that decision around them and the people involved, rather than attributing everything or the most important, egregious error made to something outside of themselves, to God, to Jesus, this thing. And localize the impact to them and the people involved, and it'll be a lot easier to make rational, good decisions because you won't be trying to, attribute it to this weird ethereal thing that doesn't really exist. You know what I mean?
You're not turning sex into a nameless, faceless act.
Right.
Where here it kind of is,
No, but it's the same. And keep in mind,
the unspeakable sin that you can commit only when you're in marriage. Then it's approved.
I'm dealing with a 17-year-old and a 15-year-old. We also have a 10-year-old. But I mean, what I'm talking about is my 17-year-old is pretty developed. So the one thing we've started over the last couple of years is talk openly about it. Talk openly about that this happens, that sex is healthy, sex is fun, sex is. I mean, we tell our kids, get out of here. I want to get naked with mom. And look, because
and she's walking around without her pants on anyway, so they get it.
Right. So they
She's already halfway there.
No, so they it's not that it's not done crudely, it's not done gratuitously, or there's no prurience about it, but we acknowledge that yes, we are married, we're adults, we love each other, we have sex, and my wife reinforces it with them. When they, why do you talk about this? She says, isn't it nice to know that your parents are in love and that we do like to do that and that we have fun together and we'd rather spend time together? Hopefully, you guys have that. So it actually becomes a dialogue. We are very open about those things, and that has spawned, I think, some real healthy dialogue with my older kids.
Yeah, kudos to you, Matt. I think.
Thanks, man.
Way to go, man.
Yeah,
nice.
All right, so and now we get to the way that Boyd K. Packer advises.
Right. Something light to something dark. All right, let's go.
I wish to explain something that will help you understand your young manhood and help you develop self-control. When this power begins to form, it might be likened to having a little factory in your body, one designed to produce that substance that can generate life.
One designed to produce. Oh, it's called product here. It's substance in the talk. They changed it.
What? Why?
Produce the
Substance?
product that can generate life.
So what exactly would be? Why the edit there, Glenn? What's your speculation there?
Substance is too graphic.
It is?
Yeah.
Graphic, yeah.
It's
got an imagery. It's got an imagery to it, yeah.
Oh my gosh, this is so nitpicky.
No,
no, it doesn't, because with little factory and product, it's just an analogy. It's just a metaphor. Look, like a product, like a
baby can be
train.
a product. A baby can be a product.
All right, I'm wrapping my brain around. I'm with you. It seems silly, but
okay.
Okay.
So when I was at BYU, Dallin Oaks Jr. was one of my linguistics professors, and I remember he was giving a lesson once about language and sounds and how certain sounds can carry connotative meaning with them.
Moist.
Yeah. So
moist.
So the example that he gave was like the E sound. When you have words that have E, elongated E, are small, like tiny, mini, something like that. Whereas O are big. Anyway, so I think that there's something that goes along with substance, and you had it in moist, where you've got that prolonged S sound that's kind of sticky and, sweet and salty, and, something that...
Oh, my God. I can taste it now.
Yeah, it's a little too descriptive.
Yeah.
And if you...
Yes. Well, it's like... What was it? Onomatopoeia? Are those the words that sound like they're...
in this case, onomatopoeia substance, but yeah.
Yeah.
So
why avoid the word semen altogether?
Yeah, because it's the S word.
Just get direct. Just say. Yeah.
He would have been better off. Either you be cute or you be direct, and be a man and say, "Look, we're going to have a frank conversation. You all produce this stuff. It's semen. It's necessary for life. It's natural. It's that's the way to address it. Except that you're also dealing with 12-year-olds, so that's why his audience is everywhere from 12-year-olds to basically early 20-year-olds, and he's trying to give the same message for them.
But there's still 12-year-olds that still think that pee and semen is the same thing. So why not just
wait? What?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
So why don't they? I just don't understand. I liked how you said, "Be a man, be direct." He's the one saying, "Be manly about everything." Yeah. Why doesn't he turn it around on himself?
Yeah. Why? Okay.
Antilization, I tell you.
All right.
This little factory moves quietly into operation as a normal and expected pattern of growth and begins to produce that life-giving substance.
The life-giving substance. There it is.
Okay. There.
Yeah, I was going to say, is everyone else's loud? Mine's loud. Well, anyway, go ahead.
Loud?
Yeah, he says it moves quietly into operation. Shoot, dude.
Oh, got you.
Well, I want to. At some point, at what point are we going to address the metaphor in general? Because I honestly think this is a brilliant metaphor for.
We're not going to address it now.
All right, got it.
Okay, no, go ahead. I just wanted to.
I don't know, because
I just wanted to throw a wrench in the factory.
He's just listening now.
We've already done that.
Honestly, every single time.
That doesn't get old.
I know, but it was so funny. Like when it happened, I laughed. So
I agree.
loud.
I did too. I
kept laughing. It was hilarious. Anyway, so. Yeah,
don't encourage me.
I know.
Don't do it.
I know.
Don't do it.
It was funny, man.
I feel like this is this metaphor really has a lot of internal consistency for depicting sex the way that he wants to depict it. I think that it's completely detached from reality, but I think that I feel like it's a really. I don't know. It's very internally consistent for depicting sex the way he wants to depict it. It's this mechanical thing, right? Yeah. It's
why.
Yeah, go ahead.
Why is it a little factory? If we're really going to get into the metaphor, why can't it just be a factory? Because imagine that inside of you have a factory that produces life-giving substance.
He's talking about the penis. He's talking about the appendage itself. He's talking about the actual your member.
No, he's not. He's talking about the mechanics, the testicles, that produce semen. It just shoots out through the penis.
Yeah,
but why?
but for all intents and purposes, it's the same.
He's conflating the whole thing. And what I'm saying is, it's not a great metaphor. It's not a great metaphor for actually depicting sex. It's just a great metaphor for depicting it the way he views it.
But why couldn't it be I mean, so you're the one that's championing the brilliance of this metaphor. I'm just asking you, why couldn't it be equally brilliant as a factory instead of a little factory?
Because I don't think that the use of little or not little is. I think it's immaterial for
when he's talking to 12-year-olds.
When I'm trying to champion it, I mean, what I'm trying to champion about it is the fact that he's depicting sex and the purpose of sex as this mechanical necessity, right? Factories, you need factories because they have to produce what you need.
Don't say factory. Don't say factory. Little factories.
No. The metaphor is about factories, right? He's saying it's a little factory. That's when he's likening your dick, your balls,
your 12-year-old dick.
Right.
But he only says little factory here, Glenn. Later on, he says the factory. So get off of it.
Yeah, this is super pedantic. I feel like. I mean,
damn right.
I don't know if you have something in mind, say it, because like I can't really make anything out of this than just a pointless distinction.
Now I remember two things.
Go ahead.
Two points. One, I remember now my friend that told me about this, he said when he first read it, it was in Spanish when he was on his mission. And he said it just reads hilarious in Spanish. And you know what hilarious means. That's like
yes.
Say little factory in Spanish, Jake.
I mean, I don't know how they would translate it exactly, but how I would translate it with my Spanish that I haven't spoken in a few years fluently, I would say like fábrica pequeña or algo or something like that.
Thanks.
Good one.
Right.
No, but they apparently translated directly where it's like un factoría, like if you will.
Right.
They translated the if you will, and I guess in Spanish it just really doesn't come off that way. Anyway, that's number one. The number two, does anyone else picture those old Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood little shorts where you'd go like how to make grape jelly? And, they'd show you the factories and how, you know what I'm talking about?
No,
that's the only thing I can think about.
Matt, just
you. Anyway.
But anyway, okay. So the thing, I mean, when he sees sex as this very utilitarian, like it's a necessary kind of utilitarian thing where you got to have it, and you produce what you need to produce, and you can. And if it goes too fast, then it's bad, and if it goes too slow, then
it's good.
It's good. It's the slower it goes, the better.
Because then you don't have to have sex with your wife as often.
Fast? Right. So I don't know, but turning it into a mechanical process, I think is very indicative of the way sex is viewed within Mormonism, especially in this era of Mormonism. And I also think
how he wants it viewed by these boys,
by these little boys, by the little boys.
Exactly. I think that very young men. I feel like it really promotes that mentality about sex and sexuality that he wants. So I think that it's an extremely. I think it's a very powerful, good, rhetorical device for accomplishing what he wants to accomplish.
From his perspective, good, right?
From his perspective,
relatively good.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Effective as a rhetorical device for making people freaked out about sex.
All right. What do you want to say about this, Tom?
We're almost to where he gives a green light to the wet dream. So let's go.
Okay.
Oh, that's the best.
Okay. One more thing though. I just referenced what's his name, Mr. Rogers. The other thing that would be great is like a Magic School Bus episode where they like go in through the wang and like go through this factory that's creating this substance. It's freaking great.
Are you giving
proceed, Elder Packard? Proceed with the little factory.
It will do so perhaps as long as you live. It works very slowly.
That's the way it should be.
That is the way it should be. For the most part, unless you tamper with it, you will hardly be aware that it is working at all.
Oh my!
Oh my gosh! At 14 years old.
As you move closer to manhood, this little factory will sometimes produce an oversupply of this substance.
Oversupply of this substance. This is where he jumps the shark, man. And it will sometimes produce an oversupply of this substance. This is inefficient.
He's wrong. He's wrong physiologically.
Yeah.
It doesn't, but whatever.
The Lord has provided a way for that to be released. It will happen without any help, nor without any resistance from you. Perhaps one night you will have a dream, and in the course of it, the release valve that controls that little factory will open and release all that is excess.
Yeah, it's got a pressure release valve built in.
I love this so much. This is the best part of this freaking essay because he says God gives you wet dreams. God gives you wet dreams. So that first wet dream when I touched a boob or something and then just completely lost it. That was good.
Oh, I've had some great ones too. Thank you, Lord.
You know, what was your most memorable wet dream?
Like I remember it was either on my mission or right before my high school. It was like a foursome, 3 chicks, man, like full on, like going at.
Wow.
Yeah, it was nice.
Glenn,
and one of them.
why did you ask, Matt?
Because I wanted to tell what mine is.
No.
Oh, okay.
And one of them was like, I don't remember who, but it was like a celebrity. It was like an actress. It was the one time that I felt like I was in Dreamscape and like controlling my dreams and like stayed almost aware in it. It was glorious.
All right, nice. Mine was lame before, but it's even more lame now in comparison. I was a missionary, and so I was dreaming that I was in a train station, and I saw a poster of Madonna. That was it.
That was it.
That was it. I saw a poster of Madonna, and
I remember my very first wet dream, and this was before. See, the thing is, I actually am sad that I never had this pamphlet because I did not know what wet dreams were until I was 17 years old.
Really?
Oh, wow.
So all this stuff was going on. I mean, I was
because you weren't having them because you were touching yourself so much. You were using the release valve.
No, I was having them. I just had no fucking clue what was going on.
Really?
And so, yeah. And so, like, I didn't talk to anybody about it. And I was just like, oh, shit. Like, I can never have sex because obviously I'm some ultra fertile, super man.
Come on, man. This is a nice way of saying I thought I was still a bedwetter in my late teens.
Well, I mean, this felt way better than bedwetting. But, I mean, if that was bedwetting, I'd piss the bed every night. It was
yeah.
I don't know. I had no idea what was going on. And so the fact that at some point somebody in conference had actually at least, however,
giving you permission,
vaguely talked about wet dreams. I mean, I'd never even heard the term. I heard the term and I was like, there's a name for that.
And
it's a normal thing.
Let's go back to who Packer said that he was, or why he said he's giving this, because some kids don't have fathers, or their bishops don't talk to them about it. And when this was happening, Jake, your dad had already passed, right?
True.
So
I did not have a father.
Who's there to tell you what to expect and what's going on?
What better than a 60-year-old sexually repressed man?
Yeah,
your bishop should have been there. Jeez. See, I had a companion, another different companion than the one who showed me his pubes. He used to wake up. He never had wet dreams. He would actually wake up and run to the bathroom, and he'd do it in such a hurried manner that he would wake you up as well. And he'd acknowledge. He's like, "Yep, had another one." But he would he would not have nocturnal emissions. He would have wake-turnal emissions.
Wait, so he would still get there? He wouldn't stop himself beforehand?
Right. Yeah, it would get right to the point, but he would wake up, run to the bathroom and like finish in the toilet. And I'm like, dude, how do you? He's like, I don't know. I've been doing it since I was a kid. I just get to the point where it wakes me up right prior to that moment. I'm like, that's like the best of both worlds.
A lot less socks to be washed. A
lot less cleanup and
what socks?
I thought that's what socks were for.
The factory and the automatic release valve works on its own schedule. The Lord intended it to be that way. It is to regulate itself. This will not happen very often. You may go a long period of time, and there will be no need for this to occur. When it does, you should not feel guilty. It is the nature of young manhood and is part of becoming a man.
Kudos.
See? No. That's so messed up again, because if you happen to have it with some regularity for whatever reason, now you should feel bad about it.
Okay.
In fact,
he's vague.
Oh, come on.
Listen, no, and this is where I'm basing it on. We had a counselor in our mission presidency who did preach that if you are having them with some regularity, that means that you are thinking about impure things too frequently and you have cause to repent.
Well,
I shit you not.
And it probably came from this because he does talk about how it's supposed to be slow and it only speeds up if you tamper.
That's it, man.
Yeah.
So there, even when you're not touching yourself, you can be doing sinful things.
All right.
There is, however, something you should not do. Sometimes a young man does not understand. Perhaps he is encouraged by unwise or unworthy companions to tamper with that factory.
Who talked about this?
I'm telling you.
You want to.
Oh man!
I'm telling you, he had this experience.
I agree with you because any normal boy, that is so taboo. No one would think to talk about that, let alone think, this might happen where other will will encourage you.
Yeah.
Now, hang
and
on a second.
It comes out later too. I mean,
are you implying that there was a young Boyd Packer, and he had a friend come up like, "Hey Boyd, have you tried doing this?
Mm-hmm.
Huh?
Yeah.
Have you tried grabbing it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what his name was?
Yeah. Right?
Wait. You never had somebody? So I did sophomore through senior high through senior year in high school in Utah, and I had people like the people on the football team, Mormon kids on the football team, would talk about masturbation in specifics, like
this is different. This is very different. He's essentially me saying.
You mean you joke about it, but nobody would admit to doing it. No,
they would. They would say, I remember the first time I tried it, I just thought you just cupped your hand over. I couldn't figure out what was going on. Then you grab it. That's genius.
So when they were encouraging you to do it, they would say, "Jake, did you do it last night? Did you?
No.
But look at Jake. He hasn't done it.
And here's how.
He hasn't done it.
Yeah. See,
but they would specifically talk about the fact that they did it.
So do you think that
talking openly is different than encouraging it? Come on, Jake, we're doing it. You want to. Everybody's doing it.
You're going to do it in front of me. No.
Perhaps he says. Perhaps he is encouraged by unwise or unworthy companions.
Well, of course they're unworthy because they're encouraging you to do what he's doing. Right? Yeah.
It's not just people talking about it; they're encouraging.
He might fondle himself and open that release valve. This you should not do.
Huh? You can do that yourself?
This is what's great about this talk, man. Is you ever hear the story about how they used to ask about bestiality?
Before
you go on a mission.
That was Tom's interview with Bagley, with Will Bagley. Talked about that.
Oh, it was?
That's right.
That was classic, man.
Oh, that was when I heard that. I thought, oh my gosh! But it's kind of the same thing. It's wait a minute. You can do this yourself?
Yeah, right.
Planting ideas, man.
Right. No, that was the brilliant moment.
Or if you do, that little factory will speed up. And you will be tempted to tamper with it again and again.
Again and again and again.
And sometimes like 2 or 3 times in a day.
You can quickly be subjected to a habit, one that is not worthy. One that will leave you feeling depressed and guilty.
Feeling depressed and feeling guilty because I just told you so.
Right, exactly. A lot of this is because you will not feel worthy.
Yeah.
They're telling you how you will not feel or how you will feel or will not feel about having done it.
Yeah.
So that seems pretty strange. But what I'm saying is, isn't this so? Thinking about it as a factory with a release valve, if you release that release valve at the wrong time, I mean, it kind of makes sense. If it really did operate like a factory, it's really not that weird to think that it would speed up to be able to like create that pressure again. I mean, that's what I'm saying. I feel like it's such an internally consistent metaphor I just have to admire it.
Really? So how many factories that you've been around speed up because you tamper with them?
Not necessarily tamper with them, but basically they operate at capacity. And so if you allow that release to happen at moments when they're not, if you lift that ceiling of capacity by allowing that release to happen by shooting your wad early or whatever, then then this factory can speed up.
Isn't it Sesame Street that has that assembly line where they go do 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 do? I don't know. That'd be great.
That is great.
Anyway, go on.
I mean, I'm just saying if you think about it, okay, so if it's operating at capacity, and when that release valve is open, then it allows capacity to that limit to be exceeded. Yeah,
he was a big fan of I Love Lucy. And everyone knows the chocolate factory. It gets speeds up, and then next thing you know, there's balls in her mouth.
Henry?
Yes?
When you have an orgasm, how much stuff comes out of your penis?
Resist that temptation. Do not be guilty of tampering or playing with this sacred power of creation. Now, one of you, perhaps, is not fully understood until now. Perhaps your father did not talk to you. You may already have been guilty of tampering with these powers. You may even have developed a habit. What then?
This reminds me of a story that I heard on my mission, one of those apocryphal things about the mission president before our mission president. I think I've said this on a podcast before, but he stood up in a zone conference and he said, "Sisters, I'm telling you to start wearing your hoses, and elders to stop playing with yours. Anytime a missionary comes to me, anytime a missionary comes to me with a masturbation problem, I give him a CTR ring." And at this point, every guy in the audience sits on his hand to cover the CTR ring that's on there. That happened when Packer said this in this conference. And what's funny, when you listen to the audio, you can hear people coughing nervously in the background. Some of you may have already been guilty tampering with these powers.
Well, I'll tell you what. If you were live in that audience, you did not want to make eye contact with Boyd K. Packer.
Right, man. He'd see right into your soul. Right into your little factory.
First, I want you to know this. If you are struggling with this temptation, and perhaps have not been quite able to resist it, the Lord still loves you. It is not anything so wicked, nor is it a transgression so great that the Lord would reject you because of it.
Hey! That's cool. That's cool, isn't it? Throw the guy a bone.
Not all is lost.
Yeah.
You don't have to kill yourself.
So it's not anything so wicked, nor is it a transgression so great that the Lord would reject you because of it. That's cool that he's saying that, right?
That's so strong. Oh my gosh.
But it can quickly lead to that kind of transgression.
What kind of transgression? The kind of transgression that the Lord will reject you for.
And he will no longer love you.
No, and he won't love you anymore.
It is not pleasing to the Lord, nor is it pleasing to you.
And what transgression is that?
Adultery.
Homosexuality.
Eating shellfish.
Homosexuality.
At this point, you're only thinking, oh, wait, yeah. What does it say? It leads to it.
Yeah.
Come on.
Quickly lead to that kind. You're right. Now, the boys, though, here again, a normal, healthy, heterosexual boy is thinking, oh, if I continue to jerk off, this is what he's talking about. But you're right. He thinks that necessarily leads to homosexuality.
Well, I think he touches on this again when he goes into that. But
spoiler alert, we're just around the corner to the homosexual stuff. But no one's going to pick up on it's not pleasing to the Lord, nor is it pleasing to you.
I felt a rush like a rolling ball of thunder, spinning my head around and taking my body under.
Yeah.
Maybe if you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, but he said you feel depressed and guilty afterwards, so he's trying to make it not pleasurable. He's like doing that shock therapy thing, whatever, electrodes.
Now, there are ways to conquer such a habit. First of all, you must leave that little factory alone long enough for it to slow down. Resisting is not easy. It will take weeks, even months. But you can get the little factory slowed back to where it should be.
See, he does keep referring to it as a little factory.
Yeah. Yeah. And that it should be slow.
I have another suggestion. The power to prevent such habits or to break them rests in the mind, not in the body.
And there we go. We come back to the mind and the body thing, right?
Don't let the physical part of you take charge. You stay in control.
Stay in control, Tom. Control your body to do the will of your mind, Tom.
Why am I being superimposed?
You know why.
You know why.
You know why.
All right.
To do this, you must keep always worthy and clean thoughts. Divert your thoughts from things that lead you to mischief. Vigorous physical exercise benefits young men in many ways. You are most vulnerable when you are idle and discouraged. That is the time to keep on guard.
I did have a missionary companion who said that anytime he felt tempted to masturbate, he'd do push-ups. A lot of push-ups. Like, why would he tell me that?
Wear yourself out.
Yeah,
you wear yourself out.
Because anytime I'd walk in the room and I'd see him doing push-ups, of course I'm thinking, oh, I know what you're doing.
All right, here's disclosure time.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
On my mission...
You've already disclosed this. It's not news anymore.
Oh, man. See, I only have so many... Gosh damn.
BFD.
You're right. I only have so many original thoughts and stories, damn it.
Go ahead. For the people who didn't hear that episode.
Right, for the people who didn't hear it before, 2 or 3 times I had full release while doing stomach exercises, abs.
Oh, see, that's not the story that you told.
Oh, that's not it?
No. You said that you didn't masturbate at all during your mission.
Oh, no, that is also true.
Right, I thought that's what you were going to say.
No.
Shame on me for assuming.
Yeah, see, thanks a lot.
Makes an ass out of just me and me.
Why don't you just listen?
Okay.
Why don't you just listen?
All right.
So talk about physical exercise. 2 or 3 times on my mission, it happened while during sit-ups, and I wasn't hard or anything. It was like a wet dream. It was bizarre. So don't listen to Boyd K. Packard. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Rigorous exercise may actually release the valve.
I thought that's what rigorous exercise was.
But he said vigorous physical exercise helps young men in many ways. So it did.
Like makes them hot.
Relax, don't do it when you want to go to it. Relax, don't do it when you want to come. Relax, don't do it.
We're about to launch into a section of the pamphlet that is exclusive to the pamphlet only, and it wasn't in the 1976 talk.
Well, how juicy is it?
Okay, well let's just read it.
Did you stretch out your vocal cords to get some channel some Boyd K. Packard again?
Right.
I don't.
Your mind is like a thing.
Yeah,
he's kind of just developed. He's kind of devolved into this, in my mind, like this, almost like a Joe Pesci. Like an old Joe Pesci.
Your mind is like a thing.
Or like the Emperor in Star Wars, right?
Kind of like that.
Right.
That is more.
I know a way to keep your thoughts worthy. It has helped me, and I explained it on one occasion in a general conference talk.
Okay, and then in the talk, he goes right to the hymn.
It has to do with selecting a favorite hymn and making that as the channel for your thoughts to follow at time of temptation.
But in the pamphlet, he says this: probably the greatest challenge of people of any age, particularly young people, and the most difficult thing you will face in mortal life is to learn to control your thoughts. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he, Proverbs 23:7. One who can control his thoughts has conquered himself. When I was about 10 years old, so this whole anecdote, like everything right here is just in the pamphlet. When I was about 10 years old, we lived in, and there's a picture I'm scrolling past, in a home surrounded by an orchard. There never seemed to be enough water for the trees. And, water is kind of life-giving substance. And trees are okay. The ditches, always fresh plowed in the spring, would soon be filled with weeds. One day, in charge of the irrigating turn, I found myself in trouble. As the water moved down the rows choked with weeds, it would flood in every direction. I raced through the puddles trying to build up the bank. As soon as I had one break patched up, another would break. A neighbor came through the orchard. He watched for a moment, and then with a few vigorous strokes of the shovel, he cleared the ditch bottom and allowed the water to course through the channel he had made. If you want the water, yeah, right? If you want the water to stay in its course, you'll have to make a place for it to go, he said. I have come to know that thoughts, like water, will stay on course if we make a place for them to go. Otherwise, our thoughts follow the course of least resistance, always seeking the lower levels. Because of gravity.
Gosh.
Because of the gravity of thoughts.
Because of gravity.
Because gravity and weeds. I had been told 100 times or more as I grew up that thoughts must be controlled, but no one told me how. I want to tell you young people about one way you can learn to control your thoughts, and it has to do with music. But again, this isn't, he didn't say this in conference. The mind is like a stage, except when we're asleep, the curtain is always up. There's always some act being performed on that stage. It may be a comedy, a tragedy, interesting or dull, good or bad, but always there is some act playing on the stage of the mind. Have you noticed that without any real intent on your part, in the middle of almost any performance, a shady little thought may creep in from the wings and attract your attention?
Yes.
Have you? These delinquent thoughts will try to upstage everybody. If you permit them to go on, all thoughts of any virtue will leave the stage. You will be left, because you consented to the influences of unrighteous thoughts. If you yield to them, they will enact for you on the stage of your mind anything to the limits of your toleration. They may enact a theme of bitterness, jealousy, or hatred. It may be vulgar, immoral, even depraved.
What does depraved mean? What is even depraved? That's the part. That's the vulgar and immoral I get. Even depraved? What is that?
Worse.
Yeah. Well, what is something that's depraved that isn't included in those adjectives?
So, guys, let me illuminate your mind. There's this thing called a 3 pattern. That's a traditional way that we communicate.
Here we go.
Seriously, you've heard this before, Tom.
Of course I've heard this before, but are you saying that this is a 3 pattern?
This is a 3 pattern. It may be vulgar, immoral, or even depraved. He's got 3 adjectives here that you're absolutely right. What the hell is the third one doing there? It's redundant. All it's there to do is to complete this 3 pattern that gives it more authority, more of a sense of completion. We do it all the time. So anyways.
All right. Fine.
So you're right. No. It's not bad. It was brilliant that you figured that out.
I don't even know what depraved. I don't even know what depraved means. Does that mean ignored?
Okay, I'm going to take away the brilliant comment, but
oh, come on. Let me ride that wave for a minute.
Yeah, depraved. Depraved is boy. How do you define it? It's
looks like I'm not the only one. Come on, man.
Okay. You got me.
Zing!
Yeah, right. Depraved. Like you're perverted. You're perverse.
Is that what it means?
It means perverse. Depraved. So, when they have the stage, if you let them, these vulgar but depraved thoughts, shadowy thoughts, they will devise the most clever persuasions to hold your attention. They can make it interesting, all right, even convince you that it is innocent, for they are but thoughts. See, I swear he's talking from experience here, but all right.
He also makes it sound like it's completely independent of you. Like you're not going to have any control of what's coming on. They have a life of their own.
Yeah, that's interesting because he's talked about earlier how the mind is separate from the body, and your mind has to control the body. So where are these thoughts coming from?
It's another level of not having control over yourself. Okay, so your mind controls your body, but then Satan can control your mind.
Boom.
In some ways if you allow him to. And so it's a whole nother level of there's a whole nother boogeyman out there.
It might be a half nother, but I think that you're right. It's Satan. Right. It's Satan whispering into your mind, and that's where the thoughts are coming from, and you've got to master it. Okay. What do you do at a time like that when the stage of your mind is commandeered by the imps of unclean thinking? Yeah, the imps, man. What are those, Tom?
I haven't watched Lord of the Rings. I'm not sure.
No, the imps are devils.
Oh, they're not in the Lord of the Rings? They sound like they'd be like along with the dwarves and the elves.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah.
The orcs and the imps.
Right. Yeah. No, the imps are like mischievous little devils that whisper bad thoughts in your ears, evidently.
You want to touch yourself?
Like that?
Yeah. Right, you know them. Whether they be the gray ones that seem almost clean or the filthy ones which leave no room for doubt. If you can control your thoughts, you can overcome habits, even degrading personal habits. If you can learn to master them, you will have a happy life. This is what I would teach you. Choose from among the sacred music of a church favorite hymn. Okay, so now it gets back to his original talk. But it's still adding more than he actually said. One with words that are uplifting and music that is reverent. One that makes you feel something akin to inspiration. So he elaborates on what he originally said. Go over it in your mind carefully. Memorize it. Even though you have had no musical training, you can think through a hymn. Now use this hymn as the place for your thoughts to go. Make it your emergency channel. Whenever you find these shady actors have slipped from the sidelines of your thinking onto the stage of your mind, put on this record, as it were. As the music begins and the words form in your thoughts, the unworthy ones will slip shamefully away. It will change the whole mood of the stage of your mind because it's uplifting and clean. The baser thoughts will disappear. This is so boring. For while virtue by choice will not associate with filth, evil cannot tolerate the presence of light.
Okay, all this is way more embellished here than it is in the audio.
That's why it took him from 1976 to 1981 to write the pamphlet.
Right. Well, I want to say, so he definitely did write this, though, right? I mean, is that something we're assuming, that the things that aren't included in the talk?
Does the pamphlet have an author? I assume it does, right? Say Boyd K. Packer. Oh no, it's got Boyd K. Packer's name on it. Yeah, is the sole author.
Oh yeah, two young men. Yeah,
because I gotta say, I'm definitely a big fan of this second metaphor as well. The stage and the actors.
Yeah, I like it too.
I think it's a great metaphor. It's just so, it really sticks in your mind. I mean, the thing is, that's why he's become so iconic. I mean, he says a bunch of inflammatory bullshit, but he also has a way of putting this inflammatory stuff in a very catchy framework that kind of sticks with you.
Okay, explain that, because I don't feel that connection that you do. So what's cool about it?
Well, okay, so the think of your mind as a stage. Well, it creates this image of that dualistic idea of the mind and also anyone's susceptibility to those external forces that could pollute your mind. It sets it up perfectly. I mean, if your mind is this kind of blank space that can be permeated by any set of actors that kind of choose to force themselves over it, but you can still control the curtain more or less, or whatever. You can control.
Yeah.
You have some. You can get out those big canes to come out from the side, like pull people off.
Nice. Okay.
If you have control over that, then that creates a way of interpreting the mind and what it is and its purpose and what can influence it in a way that perfectly serves his purpose.
Well, you could even replace this metaphor with the TV, right? You're watching one channel and you use the remote to change it to something else. Yeah, I like it. It's much better than the digging a gutter for the water metaphor. That bullshit.
Yeah. The water and the thing. I don't even remember what the point of that was. But this one's going to stick with me. This is very. It's really catchy.
Well, the ditch in the water he actually comes back to when he says rehearse the hymns in your mind so that they become the ditches that you can channel your thoughts into.
Goes back to it. But I do have to say, for me, when I was a kid, when I read this pamphlet, this was probably the one thing that I actually implemented into my life, was singing a hymn.
Did it work for you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. Well, and then my plan B, the backup, was always thinking of my grandma. So,
what hymn did you choose? What? No, don't go there, Jake. What?
No. I wasn't going there. I'm kind of. But I'm doing it. Did you ever have kind of an unintended kind of Pavlovian effect with that, where you pick a hymn and then you pick a hymn to sing whenever you have a boner, so it'll go down. But then when people sing the hymn, you get a boner.
No, that never happened to me. No.
It never worked. It worked. It did for me. I kind of got it was like there's definitely a Pavlovian association I was making with that.
What's the hymn?
Well, I guess I didn't stick with like one hymn all the time. I kind of had like a rotating playlist in my head.
See, you didn't dig the ditch deep enough. It has to be one hymn that you constantly repeat.
He doesn't say that. He doesn't say one hymn, does he? Does he say sing a hymn?
Yeah, he says go over it in your mind. He says
my shovel strokes probably weren't vigorous enough.
Look, he says use this hymn, singular, as the place for your thoughts to go. Make it, singular, your emergency channel. Whenever you find these shady actors that have slipped from the sidelines of your thinking onto the stage of your mind, put on this record, as it were, that has the grooves, right? You know,
right,
remember what a record was?
Multiple songs on a record? Right.
Yeah, okay. All right, so can you tell me what the hymn was, Jake, that gave you a boner?
Thank thee, O God, for profit.
Hold to the rod.
Hold to the rod.
Jeez.
All right. Once you learn to clear the stage of your mind of unworthy thoughts, keep it busy with learning worthwhile things. Change your environment so that you have things about you, like around you, that will inspire good and uplifting thoughts. Keep busy with things that are righteous. Okay, and thus ends the insert, because now we get back to the original talk.
That insert was pretty boring. I guess I see why somebody edited it out, don't you think?
Well, I don't think it was edited out. I think it was added.
Added to the pamphlet.
Yeah,
because that took later.
Not that there's anything wrong with that. Not at all.
Okay, so another thing that will help both to prevent and to overcome such habits at
times of special temptation, skip a meal or two. We call that fasting, you know. It has a powerful effect upon you physically. It diverts some of that physical energy to more ordinary needs. It tempers desire and reduces the temptation. Fasting will help you greatly.
This gets back to what Matt said last time. This is what Matt said last time, where he would do push-ups. And there's also a way you can do it by starving yourself. It gets your mind off your junk.
No, it's just a stupid thing to think, if I fast, I'm not going to want to touch I don't know. It just sounds stupid. Such a primary answer.
I like it, though. I think
we used to teach. It's like we used to teach guys, on the mission. Oh, you want to quit smoking? You should really brush your teeth and chew gum, and not understanding the real issue and the complexity of the need there.
In the scriptures, and you should be acquainted with the scriptures, fasting and prayer are generally mentioned together. Prayer is a powerful instrument to bless young men. If a missionary, for instance, indulges in these unworthy practices, the Spirit of the Lord will leave him. When he is prayerful and will fast, the Spirit of the Lord sustains him, and he soon develops a manly restraint and control.
And then he's got another manly adjective in here.
This idea of manly restraint, I mean, you talk to any psychologist, is that actually is going to create some just crazy these cycles of constant angst and it's going to make it worse. So you're gonna hold off for a little bit and do the whole cold turkey thing, white knuckle it, as it were, and then it's going to make it worse, both psychologically and your ability to deal with it. Whereas the best advice is, all right, get it over with, move on, and don't focus on it. But this constant focusing on it, which is what he's advocating, it just creates a vicious cycle.
Serenity now.
Serenity now! Serenity now!
What is that? Doctor gave me a relaxation cassette. When my blood pressure gets too high, the man on the tape tells me to say, Serenity now!
Are you all right?
Oh, no, I'm fine. Serenity now. Serenity now, serenity now.
Serenity now thing doesn't work. Just bottles up the anger, and then eventually you blow.
What do you know? You were in the nut house.
What do you think put me in? Serenity now. Insanity later.
You're just bottling it up.
Resist those temptations. Do not tamper with your body. If you have already, cease to do it now. Put it away and overcome it.
Put it away?
Yeah, zip up.
Yeah, and overcome it.
The signal of worthy manhood is self-control.
You know, I don't completely disagree with that. You know, like self-control and discipline and things like that. You know,
that's a signal of manhood. Is that what you're thinking?
I would say maturity more than manhood, but
okay.
Yeah, I mean, like he's masculinizing it, but I think it's more of like maturity that you've got self-control. But anyway, but that could be like the way that Matt teaches his son to masturbate. That you just don't blow it all as quick as you can. You know, have self-control in that area too, right? Take your time. Take your time.
I've heard of
it'll help you out in the long run.
Yeah, it's definitely a form of discipline.
Yeah.
This creative power is ordained for the begetting of life and as a binding tie in the marriage covenant. It is not to be used prematurely. It is to be known between husband and wife and in no other way. If you misuse it, you will be sorry.
I love this next turn because it's typical Packer stuff where he says, you know, it's only between husband and wife, no other way. If you misuse it, you will be sorry. You know,
cue the dead, you know, dun dun dun.
And then, and then what does he follow that up with?
Now a warning.
Now a warning. What the hell? What did he just say? What did he just do? If you misuse it, you will be sorry.
It's like everybody's eyeballs are wide open. Like, we'll be sorry about what? What are we going to be sorry about? It's like, now a warning.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is an attention grabber, man.
Yeah, this is just an ominous talk, though. I mean, it's just so many of the points are centered around a really fear-based view of sexuality and sex and everything that he's talking about.
Yep.
It's pretty messed up.
Now a warning.
I'm hesitant even to mention this subject. It must be labeled as major transgression. It is not pleasant, but I will speak plainly. There are some circumstances in which young men may be tempted to handle one another, to have contact with one another physically in unusual ways. Latter-day Saint young men are not to do this.
Okay, now we're getting to the climax of the talk.
Yeah, right? Or the apex, yeah.
Because this is such a left turn.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, where did this come from?
Yeah, it's like now all of a sudden he's like, okay, I got to address something serious. Boys are touching boys out there. Like, what?
Yeah.
But okay, so this seems like a left turn to us. But have you guys read in The Miracle Forgiveness? Was this just a common mentality that masturbation is really related to homosexuality? Maybe that was just in the mindset back then, and now it isn't.
When was Miracle of Forgiveness published? Did it predate this? So the question is chicken or egg, Packard or Kimball?
Well, maybe it's a third thing. Maybe it's just something that was in there for years, and it was in the ether of the Mormon mentality for years, and then it kind of bubbled up in this period, and maybe it's not one of them used it first, and the other one was like, "Oh, I gotta get that."
Yeah.
Well,
it's just so bizarre. Again, this is where you have to think, what was his life experience to jump to this?
Yeah.
Because everybody, it's such a left turn.
He must have had either personal experience or, someone had reported that this was a major issue, that there are boys touching boys out there. I mean, I don't know. And that might be it. Is people that would come to confess would say, well, I started with, masturbation, and then so they think, oh, there's the connection. That's the cause and effect.
Okay, here's this next section is what makes me think that he's speaking from the experience. It just seems so weird. And there are some additions in this pamphlet that aren't in what he actually said in the conference that are telling. So he says,
sometimes this begins in a moment of idle foolishness when boys are just playing around. But it is not foolishness. It is remarkably dangerous. When a young man is finding his way into manhood, Such experiences can misdirect his normal desires and pervert him, not only physically, but emotionally and spiritually.
Such practices, however tempting, are perversion. That however tempting is inserted for this pamphlet. So he put that in after a lot of thought.
However tempting was added in?
Yeah, that's not in there.
Oh.
That is a little juicy.
Such practices, however tempting, are perversion. When a young man is finding his way into manhood, such experiences can misdirect his normal desires and pervert him not only physically, but emotionally and spiritually as well. And, I mean, there's a lot of additional words and stuff.
It was never intended that we use this life-giving power only with one who is our partner in marriage. I repeat very plainly, physical mischief with another man is forbidden. It is forbidden of the Lord. Now, there are some men who entice young men to join them in these immoral acts. If you are ever approached to participate in anything like that, that is the time to vigorously resist.
I appreciate, I mean, like as a parent, you want to warn your kids about what's the word for it? Pedophiles? You know, I mean, it's
sure.
I grew up
sexual predators.
I remember growing up hearing a story about this guy in Arizona called Snaggletooth. Does that ring any bells to you, Matt?
No, the only Snaggletooth is it's a different case, not a sex case.
It may have been an urban legend or something that I heard, but it just scared the crap out of me because it was like guys that. This guy that would kidnap little boys and molest them. And I remember an episode of Different Strokes where there's
Dudley.
There's this guy that his name's Dudley?
Gordon Jump.
Was it Gordon Jump? He was in a Temple movie, dude.
Yeah, Gordon
cow.
Jump is the bicycle owner, and he molests Dudley.
Well, he entices Arnold to like watch movies with them in a van, and I remember watching that.
The back of the bike shop, watches the cartoons with naked he and Dudley. Arnold leaves, and then Dudley stays and gets molested.
Wow!
Oh my! I haven't seen this episode.
Yeah, that was
a very special.
Right? Yeah. Oh, I'd never put that together, but yeah. Well, the world don't move to the beat of just one drum, Matt. What might be right for you may not be right for some. Wow. But that really made an impact on me as a kid, that fear. And so I as a parent, I appreciate somebody coming out and saying, be careful if men do. But the way that he does it is so matter-of-factly and almost off the cuff. Like, there are some men who entice young men to join them in these immoral acts. Like it's more common than maybe it actually, I don't know. It just seems. It seems.
The
a little
problem
strange.
is this doesn't. This is okay. I totally get the predator thing, but this doesn't sound like predator thing to me. This sounds like a friend who's like, "Hey, you want to see what I got going in my pants?" And however tempting that might be.
Well, that's the playful mischief thing among boys. But then he takes it to a different level. He says there's some men who try to entice the boys, the young men, into this. So I think that's where he goes on the predator thing. He doesn't elaborate on it, but
maybe you're right. Okay, I'll give you that.
Yeah. So, and then he tells this story, and this is also another telling thing to me.
While touring a mission on one occasion, a missionary said he had something to confess. I was very worried because he just could not get himself to tell me what he had done. After patient encouragement, he finally blurted out, "I hit my companion." "Oh, is that all?" I said in great relief.
So, like, where did his mind immediately go?
Right.
When a missionary said there was something, is that what you guys would be thinking if a missionary said, "I've got something I've got to confess"? I would think he had sex with a woman.
Or, or something.
Well, yeah.
No, or
maybe that's what he did think, though. No, but maybe that's what he did think. Oh, yeah, you fuck the natives or something. I don't know.
Well, not just that, but why is a companion probing him for sinful behavior? Shouldn't he be like, "Oh, you should talk to the mission president about this"? I'm not your repentance go-to guy.
But yeah, I don't know. He likes to hear it. But Jake,
yeah.
I think the context of this story, where he places it right after this, men enticing other men to fondle each other. And what he goes on to say about the missionary companion, it kind of implies he's not explicit. So you're right. It could be that he was assuming it was sex with a woman, but it implies homosexuality. And like when he goes on to say it's okay, basically, to defend yourself with physical force, it's in response to this homosexual advances.
Yeah, well, it comes on the heels of the whole now a warning.
Yeah, it's right in the flow.
Yeah, it has to be related. It has to be related.
I mean, it is related because of the content of the story later on. As for my, myself,
as for you in your house?
didn't. As for me in my house, we will serve pancakes. But I didn't really see it that way. I didn't grab that implication that he assumed homosexual behavior between the companions. But I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
Well, he goes on. I know, but that's because your mind wouldn't naturally go there.
Right. His track.
Wait. So what? You're attuned to the mind of somebody that's suppressing homosexuality?
I'm reading this already, this textual analysis that I'm doing. I have this bias already that he's got this in his mind. So when this comes up, I go, okay, this is another one of those little hits. So
but you can see how he's tracking, and that's once you start really looking at it, it seems to be a pretty clear way to say this is how his mind is following as he's intentionally telling this story and framing this issue.
Yeah.
Oh, is that all? I said in great relief. But I floored him, he said. After a little more research into what had happened, my response was, well, thanks. Somebody had to do it. And it wouldn't be well for a general authority to solve a problem in that way. Now, I'm not recommending that course to you, my young friends, but I'm not omitting it. You must protect yourselves.
And this gets a huge response from the audience because up to this point they're sitting there going, oh shit, and there's this nervous coughs and there's I can release all this tension with a laugh. It gets two big laughs out of this, but it's kind of disturbing.
It's really disturbing.
Not kind of disturbing, dude.
I'm not recommending this course, but I'm not omitting it. Must
another big laugh.
Yeah, you must protect yourself against what? Like what does that have to do with the missionary flooring the other one? You must protect yourself.
Well,
that's another implied that this missionary either got hit on by his companion or whatever. Yeah, this is
That's what a close reading suggests.
I don't even think a close reading. I think that's the only possible way to read it. And I got to tell you, I got so just angry. I got a physical reaction at those sons of bitches that are sitting in there listening to a fucking prophet of God who dares to say this, and they just gush and laugh over it. They're all fucking horrible people.
No, come on, Matt. You gotta give them the benefit of the doubt here that their laughter wasn't saying it's okay to do this. It was a release of nervous energy from everything that was going on in the talk. That's got to at least be a possibility.
Every time somebody laughs in general conference, there is an element of that because people are so bored and they're looking for a chance just to have a release.
Yeah.
And this is a form of that, but also this also shifts from oh my gosh, he's talking about me, I masturbate too. That I don't do.
Yeah.
I'm not gay, and so now it turns into from being very self-conscious about what they're doing wrong to okay, now I can turn it around and this is something that I can judge and I can really get behind. That I can get behind because that's not me.
I don't take the laughter that way. I think there's that nervous release, but I think there's also this incongruity of a prophet of God saying it would be okay in certain situations to, lambaste your, it's just like you wouldn't expect that to come from an apostle over the pulpit, and so there's that, like sudden rush of incongruity that you're like, whoa,
right?
I think that's more of what's going on than a validation.
I agree with you, Glenn.
Yes. I mean, I would place way more of the blame on Packer for this one because, reading this closely, this is written humorously. Like he knew people were going to laugh at this part because the way that he and if you listen to the way that he delivers, I'm not condoning it, but I'm not omitting it.
Yeah.
He knows that people are going to laugh at this, and he is condoning that type of of group vilification of a group of people and having a laugh at their expense.
Yeah.
Right, but this also shows again his naivety and myopia and not understand the influence that he has to think that people wouldn't take him seriously with this, because they will, they have, they do.
Yeah, but he's covering his ass by saying I don't recommend it. So he can always go back to that. And
sure, which is what makes him even more irresponsible.
I know, but I mean, how many people do you know that actually went out and took this as a license to beat up on homosexuals?
Yeah,
do you think that really happened?
Hills of the world.
Just what?
Just the Mike Tannehills of the world.
Yeah,
Well,
Mike was like 3 years old when this came out.
I hear no,
He's
but
he's
on my
referenced it
mission.
before.
I know.
On my mission, I heard elders talk about this specific anecdote and talk about how they would do that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Though. That's a good point.
Right, and referencing this specifically.
Yeah.
Well, can I read the criticism on the Wikipedia page about this article?
Okay.
About this pamphlet. This is because it's a quick little snippet about this pamphlet, and this is what this particular section that we just went over is what draws the most fire. And it says Packer's sermon encourages young male Latter-day Saints to, quote, vigorously resist homosexual advances, even with violence if necessary.
Yeah.
In 2001, gay Mormon historian D. Michael Quinn described the sermon as the low point in Mormon hierarchy's homophobia since the 1950s.
Yeah.
Quinn argued that Packer's words constituted an endorsement of gay bashing, and that the church itself endorses such behavior by continuing to publish Packer's speech. In 2000-2001, David E. Hardy, a Salt Lake City lawyer who is the father of a gay son, criticized the sermon for demonizing gays and implying that homosexuality is a matter of choice.
I've got to admit, I just felt the spirit, and I'm being serious about that. I recant what I said earlier. You're right. This is unacceptable to have in here. It really is.
This is absolutely disgusting and egregious. I mean, I can't believe that someone purporting to be a representative of Jesus Christ would say something like this.
Yep. Okay, then more awful stuff that he says, and to me, this is the echo that you hear in that 2010 October conference talk where he says that no one was born into it. Why would Heavenly Father do something like that?
There is a falsehood that some are born with an attraction to their own kind, and that they can do nothing about it. They are just that way, and that is a malicious, destructive lie. It is of the devil. No one is locked into that kind of life. From our premortal existence, we were directed into a physical body. There is no mismatching of bodies and spirits. Boys are to become men, masculine, manly men, ultimately to become husbands and fathers. No one is predestined to a life of perversion.
Now, it should be mentioned in the audio, he heavily emphasizes this section.
Yeah.
He like takes pauses. You can kind of see him glaring into in some of the young men's souls.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like this part.
He's pounding the pulpit, and this is rewritten. And he says no one is predestined to perversion, is what he says in the talk. But this one is perverted use of these powers, as if that makes it a little bit better. more clear or something. But
so would you say that's a softening of the language?
I think that's a softening of the language, because he's not saying that the people themselves are perverts. He's saying that they're perverting the gift that God gave them of sexuality.
And focusing on the act rather than maybe even the urges. Because if you can overcome it with your mind, as he's been advocating, you're win.
Yeah.
Well, he does specifically state it is of the devil.
Yeah.
Period. Yeah.
Okay, so I want to kind of argue a little bit that I think he's kind of right. Not in the sense of, I mean, obviously not in the sense of like, no, nobody's born this way, that type of thing. But the thing is, I can really see where he says if somebody is born this way, and it is true that being homosexual is against God's plan, that completely destroy, like those ideas are so incompatible in my mind that I have a hard time wrapping my head around it. That a loving God would create somebody that's literally, that has a compulsion to do things that are completely against his will and just have to completely suppress themselves in every way, in this huge part of their life.
Why are you only applying that to homosexual urges? I mean, heterosexual urges you're supposed to master and control until the time is right too. Why would a loving Father give us those and have to deal with that? Or other urges?
There's no outlet for homosexuality. You can't even acknowledge it. Like, at least you can. It's not implicit. I mean, it's not a sin, an unconditional sin, to just be attracted to people, to be attracted to women. It's just bad to masturbate and have sex before you're married and that type of thing. But there is no outlet for homosexual attraction at all.
I understand that, but why would a loving Heavenly Father put urges and desires in 12-year-old kids that they can't act on until they're 21 or older? Why would he do that? Why would he make them suffer for 10 years?
That's much less egregious than, like, you can just never acknowledge this aspect of yourself.
Yeah, it is. I agree.
That's why I'm making a distinction.
Okay, I accept your distinction, but still, why?
Oh, okay.
Why would God give people any urges that are contrary to the way that He wants them to live? And you can do a scale of that. That's fine. But why would He, even to the smallest degree, do that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it all does fall apart anyway, but it especially falls apart if, I mean, I can understand why Packer is so adamant about this thing, because it really, I think it fundamentally cracks the foundation of the idea of the plan of salvation to acknowledge that people can be born gay.
Well, that's true. Go ahead, Tom. No, I was going to derail this, so go.
Oh, okay. I just want to say the one thing that just to kind of build off what you guys were saying, he doesn't have any room for exceptions or anomalies. I mean, we can talk about homosexuals, that's fine, but we're talking like hermaphrodites, asexuals. This isn't just homosexuality is a minority, but it's not as rare as he's making it seem. And this binary thinking where it's why would God create something is so rare? I don't know. My mind doesn't even. It's like it's out and out rejecting this premise. So like when I hear you talking about this, Glenn, why would God create that? I get automatic nosebleeds now because my freaking brain isn't wired to even accept that anymore. Because God didn't create these people,
right?
So that's why evolution did. That's why there's anomalies. That's why there's exceptions. That's why there's not everybody's on the same playing field. There's going to be people that have male and female genitalia. How would Packer handle that?
You don't think I'm arguing for God, do you?
No. I wasn't.
No. Yeah.
Sorry, when I was listening to it, I was just my mind doesn't even process it like that anymore. It's like I hear what you're saying, but I
think Jake is right that acknowledging that people can be born homosexual or hermaphrodite or transgendered or whatever, it really fundamentally challenges Mormon doctrine and the plan of salvation. So you've got to oppose that, but.
How do you oppose it? It's a reality. You can't oppose something that's real.
They do it all the time. Are you kidding me?
No, what I'm talking about, Tom, is Packer has to oppose it the way that he's doing in this talk. He has to say that's a lie, because you can't accept that it's true and still have Mormonism be true. He doesn't have room for that.
Man.
Yeah, it is. I think that's what Jake was saying. It's totally problematic.
Yeah, I mean, it is problematic, but I can see why he's taking that hardline stance against it, because it completely erodes the basis of the theology.
Yeah.
No, you guys are right. You guys are right. It's just I have no room to understand that view anymore.
Well,
and it's like, part of it's because.
Sorry.
No, what you said is I was going to say exactly what you did, which is there are examples in the world that absolutely refute what he's saying.
Yeah.
Not just from Hermaphrodites, but you have, now when they get into DNA and they know that there are the XXYs or the YYX, whatever where they start realizing, it's more complex than even just penis vagina, but then you start getting into DNA, the building blocks, and these things can't be refuted. It's Elder Nelson one time got up in conference and said, one reason that it's a choice, homosexuality, is it's not found in the animal world. And, biologists and geneticists and other people who actually know this shit, who are Mormons, who actually grew up with him, sent him a letter and said, "You're wrong. You are you are just wrong with your facts." And he doesn't respond. He certainly doesn't recant it, and he certainly that doesn't change his worldview.
Yeah, and I think the point that Jake made is one reason why they have to reject the evidence and stick to the dogma, stick to supporting the doctrine, because otherwise things start to crumble. And my only point in saying that there's degrees of that, like when you chase that rabbit down the hole, you start going, well, why would God do it with anything? Oh, maybe there isn't a God doing it. That was my point, that you come to that conclusion. I did.
Right.
Or, if there is a God, he's not that kind of a God. That's not the kind of God that defines him. So whatever God this God of Mormonism is, it just doesn't work. It doesn't fit.
No, it's still Randy's line. Look, I'm not saying there's not a God. I'm saying beyond a shadow of a doubt, I know the Mormon God does not exist,
Right.
Yeah, defined by this. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, and I remember Matt saying this at some point, and I really liked it. I don't know if it was in this podcast or not, but basically, Mormonism only works for the perfect case. It just does not handle people that fall outside the norm of what is considered typical or expected.
Yeah.
Yep.
So if you fall outside of that, it's just like, oh, well, you get crushed in the wheels of the celestial clock or whatever.
That makes me so frustrated.
Even those who have been drawn into wicked practices and are bound by almost unyielding habits can escape. If one of you seems trapped into that, escape. Go to your father or bishop, please. Your parents, your bishop, the servants of the Lord, the angels of heaven, and the Lord himself will help redeem you from it. Young Latter-day Saints, do not tamper with these powers, neither with yourself alone, nor with any of your own kind. Never let anyone handle or touch those very personal parts of your body, which are an essential link in the ongoing of creation. Many of the world would, I am sure, be amused at this counsel.
How about you guys? Are you amused by it?
No, I'm disgusted.
Yeah, it's
that's the thing. It really isn't just amusing. We sound like we're mocking, but we're really. It is tragic that he is listened to by other people, by other boys, by other men, just other people. It's a tragedy.
It is, but I'm still amused. I mean, the whole little factory thing. I mean, just come on.
Yeah, that was fun.
That is funny. That is funny.
So he gives us permission.
Let them be amused. They live by another standard, a lower one.
Classic us versus them. We're going to define ourselves by this demonized other group. I in my mind, I'm thinking, fuck you, Elder Packer, but I can't bring myself to say it.
Way to go there. Way to have that self-constraint, man.
Yeah, right. It's the sure sign of my masculinity that I controlled myself right there, that I didn't say what I just said.
Let's talk about our standards Brother Packard. Let's talk about which of us will advocate violence against other people.
Yeah.
Which of us will have caused people literally to commit suicide. So if that's your standard, have it. Fucking have it.
Yeah, well, the Lord did command the Israelites to go in and wipe out all those people. So he is a vengeful Lord, and not just this loving hippie Jesus that you want to believe in. I'm assuming another voice here,
That's right.
So Mike Tannehill can keep his what was it, the javelin?
Yeah.
That it's part of it. It's in there.
Right. No, it's the Jesus that cleared the temple, cleansed the temple. That's the violent Jesus that Packard gets a hard on over.
Well, it's even more than that. It's the Jesus of the last days, of the judgment, when the wicked are destroyed and there is stubble before him. And he tells people in the New Testament, go and trade in your plow for a sword, and things like that. He's not just this passive guy that we'd rather have him be if he was. But yeah, go ahead, Tom.
All another reason not to believe in him.
Yeah, we made fun of this a couple weeks ago. Righteous indignation, is that what it was? Or no, we did righteous dominion. But I mean, this whole idea of indignation, that you can be angry and upset when it's the things that are trying to pervert the world. And you're right; it just fosters this bullying, justification of bullying and gay bashing and all kinds of stuff. It's awful.
We live by the Lord's standard and will continue to teach it.
Yeah, you can't speak for the Lord for me. He just can't.
Right.
Yeah. But he's raising everybody up and lowering everyone else down. It's a superiority thing. Right.
Totally.
Right.
And I had this reaction to the Doctrine and Covenants at one point, where, especially reading 132, and going, you know what, this really doesn't. If this is actually the voice of the Lord, I don't like that Lord very much. It can't be. Like, this cannot be the voice of the Lord. And I feel the same way about Packer, the things that he says.
Yeah.
It's normal. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to continue.
Yeah. You can carry on. My thing can come anytime.
Okay. Yeah, all you have to do is sit-ups.
Right. Right, yes. I just, my little factory's running nice. Okay.
Now it is normal and proper for a young man to become increasingly interested in young women, to begin to date and eventually to pair up, and we encourage that.
I hate that he said, we, the magisterium, encourage that. But be careful.
Right, like no one else does, right?
Yeah, but it's like, it's okay because we told you guys that it's okay. We
gave you permission.
We the church.
It absolutely does that.
But be careful. Keep your relationships with young women pure and chaste. Reserve those life-giving powers for marriage. Generally, a young man is physically developed for marriage long before he is emotionally or spiritually or materially qualified for it. In due time, when all things are in balance, you will be ready. After you have kept yourself in physical control, after you are sufficiently mature emotionally and spiritually, after you have some material resources, that is the time for marriage.
And some of this I think is good advice here, where he's saying, wait until you're physically, emotionally, and materially ready. Like how many members of the church don't take this advice, that they get married, as like freshmen at BYU when they haven't even graduated. They're not materially ready to be married, but they're doing it anyway. So,
good point.
Glenn, emotionally, spiritually, and materially, isn't that a 3 pattern?
Yeah.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
All right.
It is. What do you think I'm saying about 3 patterns, Tom?
I know. I'm taking notes. I'm listening to Glennisms here.
Yeah,
okay.
It is. But I'm not just discounting things because they're 3 patterns.
Okay.
Then you can enter into the new and everlasting covenant. You and your sweetheart will be sealed together for time and for all eternity. These sacred life-giving powers will then be released for your use. They will become a binding tie in your marriage. Through them, you will become a father. But for now, you prepare. and follow the instruction in the scripture, be ye clean who bear the vessels of the Lord.
Blah, 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 blah. Anything more you want to say about this?
So the only thing I want to say is we have that J. Reuben Clark, that mythos that Glenn pointed out is likely just folklore, and people love to point out. You don't need that, because this is just as ridiculous as that.
The Marky Peterson masturbation
Marky
one?
Peterson, yeah, I'm sorry. Did I say J. Reuben? Yeah, the Marky Peterson one that as Glenn has pointed out, is folklore and may not be realistic, or may not be real, at least. And you don't need that. You don't need anything you don't need a fictionalized thing when this is right there for the taking.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. This thing it's egregious. It's egregious.
Well, there's few things in Mormon history that make me, extremely sick to my stomach, like the miracle forgiveness with telling rape victims you should die fighting instead of letting your chastity be taken from you, and then hearing this stuff where he says, essentially, it's okay to gay bash. I don't know, man. There's just a few things that really, really make me hate having any sort of Mormon label on me. It's like I'm extremely embarrassed and humiliated from these kinds of words and these kinds of things being thrown out there to the church, because if you really think about it, there is blood that has been shed because of these words. Like Matt talked about earlier, there have been Mormons that have committed suicide because of these things being pushed out there by saying, you need to not be gay, and you need to keep your little factories in check, and you need to date young women, and if that's not their nature, then I don't know. It just makes me really, really sick, dude. I mean, it started off really funny, and now I'm like super sad and frustrated and angry.
Yeah, I mean, they're at the end of this whole section about homosexuality, one of the final paragraphs is, even those who have been drawn into it, if you seem trapped into it, escape. Go to your father or bishop, please. Your parents, your bishop, the servants of the Lord, the angels of heaven, and the Lord himself will help redeem you from it. Which, I mean, the strength of that language is, if somebody doesn't feel like they can overcome it, then they're falling short of. Look at the list of people they're falling short of.
Well, and think about the gays that go through all those steps, and then obviously nothing's changed, and then they feel even more.
Right. It's like, well, I guess God or the angels don't give a shit because I've gone to everybody else that's real.
Oh yeah.
So
this is also what causes those. Oh geez, what is the little gay those camps where they try to.
Pray the gay away.
Electroshock. The pray the gay the way, the electric shock, the real savage and backwards and 1920s therapy that they try to do. This facilitates that. And that's why this has facilitated so much harm and damage. It frustrates me.
And I think what ultimately happens with a lot of people, maybe not everybody, is that when they don't get these results that they were expecting from angels and God and everybody, they start thinking, then I'm the problem. I must not be worthy. And, like I had that experience with my friend, Kevin, that was in a wheelchair and had that blessing from President Kimball. It wasn't homosexuality that he was struggling with. It was the inability to walk, and that every day, because he'd had this blessing and been told this same thing, that angels and God will make you whole. When it didn't happen after a certain amount of time, I thought, what's the problem? Is it me? It's got to be me. There's something wrong with me. And just that whole, it seems in a talk like this, I know what he's doing because I did it as a missionary. I did it as a member of the church when I was teaching gospel doctrine classes or something, and I wanted to really hit a home run and get people to feel the Spirit. And so you go there, you go for God and angels, and they will be there for you and help you. And just the ramifications of that can be awful.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that I don't know. I definitely fed into that mentality, and in a lot of ways, I really fault the church for being. A lot of times, I make fun of the church for being so milquetoast and never really having the balls to come out and say, things directly or really, wield that mantle of prophetic authority. But in a way, that's almost kind of a merciful thing that they're doing is being so is not coming out and saying. I mean, if being the way they are now with this very lackluster, bland stuff, if that displaces this kind of rhetoric, then I'm for it. Yeah. Because this type of thing is incredibly destructive and awful. But I had this conversation with my brother over the weekend about homosexuality and about gay marriage, and it was a good. I mean, I think it was a fruitful conversation. But he was coming at it from a very believing perspective with a lot of the typical kind of right wing talking points. And at the end of the conversation, I said the one thing about this that just fills me with joy and happiness is that I know that people that think like the people that have this idea are becoming fewer and fewer every day, and your mentality will die out and no longer exist. And I believe that. I think that this type of thing, this idea that he's perpetuating now, thanks to the movement forward that we're making in our society, this will die eventually.
Well, yeah. Education and information is killing this kind of thinking. Yeah. Right.
And it's happening all the time, and it's it is getting better, and they'll die out. We just have to run out the clock.
I wish we could make it sooner, but yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we can end right now our podcast.
We got to do our alma mater. We must do our alma mater. When I was a little bitty boy, my grandmother bought me a cute little toy. Silver bells hanging on a string. She told me it was my ding-a-ling-a-ling-o. Beautiful, beautiful.
Hi, my name is Raven, and I'm a sophomore studying bioresource research at Oregon State University. Go Beavers! My dad, Chad, introduced me to Infants on Thrones and great beer. We like to listen to the podcast for family home evening while enjoying one of our very own home-brewed orange rye IPAs. You can comment on this episode on the website, infantsonthrones.com. And if you really like what you hear, give the Quorum a 5-star rating and write a short review on iTunes. We did. Now, anyone for the closing prayer?
That is beautiful. You know what I heard? I hear two girls over here singing in harmony. That's all right, honey. This is a free country. Live like you want to live, baby. Yeah. Ain't nobody gonna knock it, darling. Yeah, freedom. Yes, sir. There's one guy right over here singing mine, too. That's all right, brother. Yes, sir. You got it right, baby. Ain't nobody gonna bother you.
Glenn, I really wanted to ask you a little bit more. So you seem to be implying here and there that you think that President Packer might either be closeted homosexual or that he's had some issues in his past. You were like picking up on these things and hitting on it while we were doing the reading. Do you really think he's, I mean, say it for the record. Obviously we're not going to put this in the podcast, but you think do you think he's a closeted homosexual, or do you think?
I was pretty clear about it in what we said. Like, I'm not recording anymore, but I mean, the part that we recorded last night, you asked this, and I think the answer is pretty clear. I'm not going to go so far as to say that he's a closeted homosexual, because I think that means something different. But I think that in his younger years, he had same-sex attraction.
I thought about us on a deserted island. We're naked in the sea. And then he'd try
turn it off. Like a light switch, there it's gone. Good for you, my hetero side just won.
Manly, masculine, hetero side.
I'm all better now. Boys should be with girls, that's Heavenly Father's plan. So if you ever feel you'd rather be with a man, turn it off.
Maybe he went through a period of experimentation.
No, I don't think he ever acted on it. I think he felt it. Yeah, I think he felt it. He felt that it was wrong.
Being gay is bad, but lying is worse. So just realize you have a curable curse and turn it on.
And that he sung hymns to himself, and he prayed, and he fasted, and everything that he's saying in here, giving advice, he did. And that at this point, he's been able to repress his sexuality to a point that you would look at him and say he's asexual now. He's got a wife. He loves his wife. He's got kids, grandkids, loves them, and doesn't feel he's got anything to regret or remorse in not pursuing any same-sex attraction that he had felt. But I think he's experienced this overcoming. I'm just reading into it. I don't know, but that's what it seems like to me. That what he's talking about is from experience, and the reason that he's so emphatic about it is because he has to be. He has to say this piece of me that is so contrary to God and the plan of salvation can't be. God can't have made me this way. It must have been the devil that was whispering things to me that I've been able to overcome. And any time that I get a little inkling of that, even now, it's just the devil whispering things to me and these actors appearing on the stage that I'm going to close the curtain. I mean, that's what I think is going on with him.
Imagine that your brain is made of tiny boxes, then find the box that's gay and crush it! Okay?
Latter-day Saint young men are not to do this. Physical mischief with another man is forbidden. It is forbidden of the Lord. They can do nothing about it. They are just that way. That is a malicious, destructive lie.
I find that whole theory interesting because I don't get that vibe, man. I get the vibe that he's either going off of experiences that other people have confessed to him, or I don't know. I just get the feeling that he's like an old curmudgeon. He's just I don't know.
Yeah, I think he's exactly what he's made himself into be. Okay. And that was his defense. I didn't really think that until I read this talk and I was looking at everything that's in it. And then as I was collecting clips for the introduction, the I'm Too Sexy stuff, there are so many talks where he hammers this. So many talks. And his whole quote about the three threats to the church.
Oh, right.
The intellectuals and feminists, and so or it was the so-called intellectuals, feminists, and homosexuals. I mean, it's just this has been a thing that he's hammered and hammered and hammered over and over and over again, and I just think this is why. But
Dick Hammer.
Yeah, I always subscribed to the idea that he's just asexual and he'd use anything related to penis and vagina just icky, but I am more convinced that is what he is now through years and years and years of repression as a result of this. So those things aren't mutually exclusive.
That's a good theory. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, that's
fascinating. Do you guys know who Dissect is? Do you guys have friends with her at all?
I believe so.
I've met and talked to her several times. She's really, really great, but her story is so crazy. She just got interviewed for a movie that's, I think, coming out, or was it Sundance? I can't remember. But she's come out publicly as asexual. And I did not know that until she did the interview. And when she shares her experiences, because she was married for several years, and she had mentioned that her husband was very abusive, sexually and physically and everything like that. And she said that she was essentially raped by this guy over and over again. And then in the interview, she talks about not having any desire for sex ever. Like she felt like she was obligated to perform for him, but it was.
That sounds like something that's learned, something that's through experience. That's not a natural thing. Really bad experiences.
I'm hearing echoes of Elder Packer there.
I know what she needs. What she needs is a nice man just to give it to her.
Right, he's a good dick.
She needs a manly man with manly sensibilities and manly discipline.
Well, but I think that what he would say is that this is one of the dangers of men who don't control their temper the way that they're supposed to. They aren't righteous in the way that they interact with their. This is the collateral damage that could come from. I think that's what he would say, and he'd probably be right to some degree. Although I don't know if she was asexual going into it or if it was conditioned as a result of repetitive abuse. I don't know.
But see, this is the thing. Let's just say, for sake of argument, that she's biologically asexual, like from the get-go. She just doesn't have any sex drive, because there are people like that out there.
Sure.
Yeah. So let's just say that that's a possibility. If there was evidence that was brought to Boyd K. Packer saying, "Listen, this is not her choice. You see here, this is her genes, this is her biology makeup. She has zero sex drive, like zero. God created her this way, man."
Huh. So what? It doesn't.
Yeah. So your God is bullshit.
No. I think you don't need a sex drive in order to reproduce. You don't need to enjoy it. You just got to do it.
So you're saying that they clock in and then clock out when it's over? You don't have to enjoy it.
Just lay there for 30 seconds.
Oh my gosh, that is horrible. It's
like a factory. It just needs to be created.
Well, but the woman's role is to be a mother, and being a mother is more than just birthing the child. It's raising 2,000 stripling warriors, and so whether she's sexual or asexual, like the whole role of mother is pretty asexual in organism.
Look at the garments.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So you don't have So what if she's asexual? Go be a mother. Fulfill the measure of creation.
Yeah, I think that Packer would be less. I think he would be less freaked out by that, because it'd be like, well, at least you're not going to get into trouble. Like the sins of commission are always viewed as worse than the sins of omission. So if you don't, enjoy sex, if that's seen as like not fulfilling God's plan in some way, that's better than not fulfilling it in a way where you actually have sex when you're not supposed to, rather than the opposite.
I know,
but I don't think that Packer looks at anything short of highest degree of celestial kingdom as an acceptable goal. Like he would admit, yeah, there's people that are going to be ministering angels, and maybe she'll be one of them, but that's her choice. So
that's her choice, right?
Yeah, she's making a choice to not marry and not fulfill the measure of her creation, because she doesn't have enough faith that if she prays and fasts and experiences that God will help her to change and heal. This is the struggle that she's been given in mortality to deal with, and you just got to put your shoulder to the wheel, push along, endure to the end.
Who is he to say that this is a struggle she was given and she should be more like the rest of us?
Because
we don't.
he's got this narrative of the scriptures, this narrative of the gospel, and she's just a character in the narrative. She's not a real person with real biological impulses or needs.
Oh my gosh, that is some scary shit. You're right.
Every single person on this earth has to overcome the trials that they've been given. There's a multitude of trials that people could have, but you've got to overcome them. This is hers.
It's so freaky that you can channel him, because you're right, but that just scares the shit out of me, really.
And you've just summed up Mormonism, which is pretending to focus on the individual while absolutely ignoring that the individual exists. That is a faceless. I think of those kids in the Pink Floyd The Wall, where they become those they get those masks, and it's just this faceless person. And that's really what everybody is to the church, and has to be in order for it to work.
Yeah, I'm kind of kicking myself that I didn't keep record on, because this has been some good stuff.
Yeah, this has been pretty darn good.
Did somebody say that they were recording?
I've been recording, but
oh really?
Yeah.
Cool.
No,
yeah. Well, Tom, put it up, and I'll like do an extended Easter egg or something. We'll have a 3-hour podcast. Who gives a shit?
Hey, this is a good one to do it on, man. This stuff's gold, Jerry. Gold. It's gold.
Thank you for listening to Infant Smackdown.